Welcome to my channel. In my channel, you can watch various type of fiction and fantasy audiobook. If you want more video like this, please subscribe my channel.
American Comics. The Untold System Behind Wanda and Gwen. Part 2. Wanda didn't care at all. Whatever liveliness, whatever cuteness, they were not worth mentioning in the face of beauty. Two beauties, one big and one small. Although this scenery was beautiful, very beautiful. It was even one of Su-Yi's favorite sceneries. But the problem faced was Wanda's Ferris wheel or Gwen's band performance. Which one do you choose? If we counted by who came first, that would be Gwen. Then should Wanda just be brushed off like that? No way. But if I accompany Wanda to the Ferris wheel, then what about Gwen's band performance? Should Gwen just be brushed off like that? That definitely won't do either. Then what to do? Su-Yi thought quickly with his single universe level brain. Then, he reached a conclusion in 0.01 seconds. First, Wanda's Ferris wheel is supposed to be at night, and Gwen's band performance is in the afternoon. Therefore, the two can be done together. Only children make choices. My lord wants them all. But how can I have them all? Well, that requires testing the charm of language. Ahem. After understanding that Wanda came to find him to go to the Ferris wheel, Su-Yi took this opportunity to reach out and gesture to Gwen beside him, saying, "Wanda, this is a high school student I met at a medical exchange meeting earlier. Not only is she interning at Osborne Industries, she is also the drummer for a band. She came this time to invite me to watch their band performance. Would you like to go together? After the band performance in the afternoon, we can just go to the Ferris wheel in the evening to see the New York night view." Su-Yi's words made the two beauties, one big and one small, gaze at each other. After they sized each other up, they finally introduced themselves to each other again. Then, regarding Su-Yi's question, Gwen definitely had no problem with it. Although she felt a sense of crisis from Wanda, of course, the more people who could go to watch the band performance, the better. And Wanda also thought about it. If she didn't agree, then there would be no chance today. But she had spent a long time choosing her clothes before coming out today. Besides, Wanda had no reason not to go either. So Wanda nodded and gladly agreed to Su-Yi's suggestion. No problem, let's go watch the band performance together first. Very good. After arranging the time, then Su-Yi looked at the lineup of 3 people, one big, one small, plus himself. Three's company. His Ferrari couldn't seat everyone. Supercars are all 2-seaters. What to do if there's no 4-seater? Call another car. Gwen, is the location of the band performance far? Su-Yi decided to ask Gwen first. Gwen shook her head. Not far, it's near the Riverside Park opposite Central Park, we'll be there after a short walk. That's good. If it's just that close, then there's no need to take a taxi or drive again, because it's very congested. But having said that, Su-Yi still looked at Wanda again. Wanda, I'm fine. Wanda looked at Su-Yi, smiled, and shook her head. After what happened yesterday, a night has passed, and I no longer care about the gaze of others. That's true. If Wanda still cared, then she wouldn't have dressed like this to come find him today. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go. So Su-Yi waved his hand. With the big beauty following his left hand and the small beauty following his right hand, they headed in the direction of the band performance. Walking on the streets of Manhattan. On both sides were all kinds of luxury shops, electronic product stores, gift and souvenir shops, food and drink shops, and so on. Su-Yi had just taken 3 bottles of milk tea. So now, each of them had a bottle, walking on the road, drinking as they went. And in a densely populated area of New York. After Wanda had been walking like this for not long, she was indeed recognized by someone. Scarlet Witch. It's the Scarlet Witch. Goddess. My goddess. Where is she? Why can't I see her? Tell me a location. The Scarlet Witch is walking next to a man. They are drinking the same kind of drink together. I don't know who started shouting it out. The crowd around them, who hadn't known before, were now aware. Then, they all started looking around to see where Wanda was. Su-Yi was speechless, but after sensing that Wanda was still a bit nervous, Su-Yi shook his head helplessly and put away the milk tea first. Then, with one beautiful woman in each hand, time to bail. He couldn't get surrounded here. Otherwise, if the people on the outside didn't know why everyone was gathering, they would crowd in too. And the crowd would just keep growing. So, Su-yi had no choice but to take them and leave quickly. A while later, after Su-yi brought the two of them to the band's performance location, he finally breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Wanda, you might still have headaches about being recognized in the future. The only difference is that before, it wasn't a good thing. Now it's a good thing, but it will still be troublesome." Wanda heard this. She had encountered this kind of thing too, so she could only ask Su-yi. "Then what should I do?" "Two choices. Oh wait, actually, it's still just one." Su-yi held up one finger. "Your magic should be able to teleport, so you should use teleportation to get around in the future. Or your magic should also be able to temporarily change your appearance, or make others unable to recognize who you are. I've mentioned this before. So, all in all, it all comes down to using magic." Wanda listened and said, "All right, looks like I need to practice more, but I still don't know how to practice." This was indeed a problem. Wanda currently possessed chaos magic but didn't know how to train herself. She had never received systematic training. So right now, she was like a child who owned a tiger tank but didn't know how to drive it. There were two solutions to this problem. First, go to Kamar Taj and learn from the Ancient One. Second, go get the Darkhold sooner. As for the negative effects of the Darkhold, that wasn't really an issue. Su-yi had the ability to purify. If it could even erase the will on a phoenix fragment, couldn't it purify the negative effects on the Darkhold? But that was a matter for the future. At the very least, Su-yi didn't need to do that for Wanda right now. And Wanda wouldn't accept such a huge favor from Su-yi for nothing. "We'll talk about it later. Gwen, over here, come quickly, you're the only one missing." At this moment, on the band stage, Mary Jane Watson and Betty Brant, who were members of Gwen's band, waved and signaled for her to come over quickly after seeing Gwen. Because the band's performance was about to start. "I have to go now, Sue. Could you hold my bag for me?" "Give it to me." Seeing that everyone was there, Gwen. She quickly handed the bag to Su-yi. Then, she pulled her drumsticks out of the bag and went up to the stage from the side. She then sat in her place as the drummer. Dum tilde dum tilde dum tilde. The accompaniment music began to play. Gwen looked through the crowd with her beautiful eyes and made eye contact with Su-yi. Su-yi smiled and nodded, offering encouragement. Wanda, standing beside him, encouraged Gwen in the same way. Ding tilde. As the final note of the accompaniment ended, the band began their performance. Gwen's band members began to strum their guitars and bass. And Gwen herself was rhythmically striking the various drum surfaces in front of her one after another. "Sounds good. Not bad." The surrounding crowd gave their feedback after listening to the intro. Then they started watching the band perform while listening to the music. Gwen and her band were performing an instrumental metal track this time. The kind of high-energy BGM that the public often hears. Bang tilde bang tilde bang tilde. Gwen's drumming seemed to strike right into the heart. Every beat of her drums made the audience's bodies nod or tap their feet along with the rhythm. This kind of instrumental music that could get the body moving. That is good music. Su-yi reached out his hand and clapped along with Gwen's drumbeat. Wanda was by his side. She leaned in and whispered, "Although I don't understand it, the band's music sounds great. As long as it sounds good, that's all that matters." Su-yi replied with a smile in her ear, "The purpose of music is to sound good. If it doesn't sound good, it's not good music." Wanda thought about it and realized, that's right. Just like that, as the band's music spread out, the crowd in front of the stage grew larger and larger. At the beginning, there were only 20 or 30 people. But now there were nearly 100 people. Seeing the audience growing, the band members on stage felt their mood and energy rising. The music they produced became more and more spirited. Time passed slowly. It was 6:47 p.m., the sunset was over, and it was starting to get dark. The band's performance was coming to an end. Boom tilde tilde tilde. Accompanied by Gwen's final note, the performance ended. Whoa tilde tilde tilde. Clap, clap, clap. Some of the audience members in attendance applauded, while others offered congratulations. After Gwen thanked everyone along with the rest of the band, She immediately came down from the back of the stage and ran to Suyi's side, lifting her delicate little chin as she asked. Sue, how was it? How was it? Gwen looked just like a pet wanting to be praised for a performance. Very good, you. Ah tilde tilde tilde. Suddenly, a terrified scream came from nearby, followed by the screams of more people. Help, there are mutated rats. There's a big lizard man. There's a lizard that looks just like a human. They're heading towards the bridge. Amidst the crying and shouting of the crowd, Suyi and Wanda turned around to see the crowd running through the streets. The audience in front of the stage also scrambled to flee. In just a moment, the streets of New York looked like they were in the middle of a riot. Gwen sighed. Why have they come again? Again, Suyi smiled. Gwen immediately looked at the floor. I mean they were just on the news a few days ago. The crowd fled through the streets. For a moment, it was like a scene of refugees fleeing. Suyi sighed. He looked at Wanda, who was calm but holding his hand, and asked, do you want to go and stop them? Wanda didn't answer directly. I have the ability, I have encountered it, and I could turn a blind eye, but I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. This sentence amused Suyi. Hearing the laughter, Wanda turned back and playfully punched Suyi in annoyance. And Suyi understood what she meant. If they hadn't run into it, that would be one thing, but now that they had, his conscience wouldn't let him just do nothing. So Suyi nodded and first looked at Gwen, saying, Gwen, you should go back first. Wanda and I will go check it out. This was intentionally said for Gwen's benefit. This way, Gwen could find an opportunity to slip away, and then change into her Spider-Gwen suit to come over. So Gwen nodded obediently. Okay, I'll wait for you downstairs at your building. Come back quickly, okay Tilda? No problem. Suyi nodded. Then, he took Wanda, who was still holding his hand, and hurried toward the scene. Before Gwen left, she looked at Wanda holding Suyi's hand, pouted playfully, and then left quickly. 3 minutes later, a figure was leaping between the tall buildings. Spider-Gwen is here Tilda. Mommy, oh my god, run, everyone run. Lizard man, what kind of monster is this? Facing the panicked, fleeing crowd, Suyi took Wanda and went against the flow again. However, this time, he didn't need to encourage her. Wanda followed Suyi with a firm will until the two arrived near the Manhattan Bridge. This bridge was the bridge connecting Manhattan Island to the mainland, and the other place the bridge connected to was Queens. At this moment, the crowd had abandoned their cars and were running off the bridge. Suyi and Wanda looked onto the bridge. A lizard man was wreaking havoc on the bridge. The metal cars were as fragile as paper in front of it. The lizard man kicked out casually. Bang Tilda. The car in front of it slid several meters away, just like a person casually kicking a chair. Squeak 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 tilde tilde tilde. The car tires screeched harshly against the ground. Ah! The people inside let out terrified screams. After hearing the sound, the lizard man paused, then turned around, lowered its head, and looked through the car window. Ah! The people inside immediately screamed even more miserably. And the lizard man smiled cruelly. It violently kicked the side of the car. Boom Tilda. The entire car immediately flew off the bridge and fell toward the sea. The people inside let out desperate screams, and the lizard man turned and left directly. But after walking 2 or 3 meters, there was still no sound of the car hitting the water below. Quote? The lizard man frowned. It had just walked to the railing, ready to take a look. When the next moment, bang, the car that had just fallen was actually wrapped in red energy. Then it was launched directly into the lizard man. Clap, clap Tilda. Suyi saw this and applauded for Wanda beside him. Not bad, indeed. That move just now was exactly Wanda's doing. After the small car flew out, Wanda waved her hands. The red energy immediately wrapped around the falling car. Then, after seeing the lizard man walk to the edge of the railing, Wanda pulled the car and rammed it right into the lizard man. After knocking the lizard man away, Wanda pulled the car she was controlling back. Bang Tilda, screeched Tilda Tilda. The car landed perfectly and came to a stop under the bridge. Seeing the people inside, Wanda reached out and pulled again. Boom Tilda. The deformed car door was ripped off by the red energy. Mom, a boy of about 12 years old ran out from inside. My child. It just so happened that the child's parents were in the crowd. The two ran toward each other and embraced. Su-yi nodded with satisfaction after seeing this. A standard US plot. But Wanda still deserved praise. Well done, Wanda. Yeah, roar tilde tilde tilde. Wanda had just nodded. Before the two could even share a kiss or anything. The lizard man's roar came from the bridge. It stood on a truck and howled at the sky. It seems to have been pissed off, Su-yi analyzed after taking a look. This was Wanda's first time seeing the lizard man's appearance, and she hesitated a bit. There are still people trapped on the bridge. I want to lure it down before fighting. That's a good idea. Su-yi looked at the situation on the bridge, then checked the time and said, if the bridge gets destroyed, we won't be able to go to the Ferris wheel tonight. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark question mark quote. Wanda was stunned when she heard the last sentence. What? If the bridge is broken, we can't go to the Ferris wheel. Absolutely not. You get down here. Suddenly, right after Su-yi finished that sentence, Wanda's angry voice came from beside him. This almost gave Su-yi a fright. He turned his head. Wanda already had her hands spread open, fingers gripping chaos magic, directly using her control ability to wrap energy around the lizard man's body and yank it. Roar tilde. The lizard man that had just been standing on the truck was instantly confused. It felt a powerful force about to drag it away. It immediately began to wildly swipe at the surrounding cars. Then it grabbed onto the bridge's railings, not wanting to be pulled away. But was the might of chaos magic really something to joke about if it could be unleashed? Get down. Wanda saw the lizard man was still resisting. She shouted and waved her hands downward. Roar tilde tilde tilde. Before being pulled away, the lizard man swatted away a car. Then it was dragged down from the bridge by Wanda. Bang! It slammed heavily onto the road. It even caved in the road. Scarlet Witch, superhero, quickly destroy this lizard man. Destroy this ugly guy. The surrounding crowd cheered in support. However, someone noticed something. Up on the bridge from just before, the car the lizard man had swatted was teetering on the edge, about to fall into the sea. Look at the car on the bridge. It's about to fall into the sea. What do we do? There seems to be someone in that car. He opened the window and is waving. It's a child. Hearing the noise, Su-yi looked toward the bridge. Indeed, a car was about to fall into the sea. Wanda reached out, wanting to use her energy to pull the car back. Roar tilde. But the lizard man climbed out of the crater at this moment. What to do now? Which one should be handled first? This was what everyone around was thinking. But in reality, there was no need to choose. Thwip tilde. As spider silk streaked over people's heads, Spider-Gwen swung rapidly through the sky, then leapt onto the bridge. It's Spider-Woman. She also solved the crisis with the Scarlet Witch before. Amidst the people's cheers of surprise, Gwen leapt onto the bridge's structure. Then, the moment the car fell, Gwen stood at the top of the bridge and shot spider silk downwards from both hands. PFF tilde. 2 strands of spider silk instantly bound the falling car. Then Gwen pulled hard, first wrapping the back end of the spider silk around the bridge. Then Gwen slid down along the spider silk, arrived in front of the car, grabbed the car door with one hand, and reached out with the other towards the little girl inside, saying, "Give me your hand, I'll take you out." When the little girl inside the car saw it was Gwen, she was initially too afraid of her surroundings to reach out. Only later, guided by Gwen's pleasant voice, did she finally reach out. Seeing that the distance was sufficient, Gwen didn't care about anything else. She grabbed the back of the little girl's clothes, quickly lifted her out, used the strength in her legs, and jumped back onto the bridge with the little girl. Pat tilde. After placing the still bewildered little girl on the ground, Gwen clapped her hands and said to the little girl, "Go find your mom. Big sister is going to help now." PFF tilde. After saying that, Gwen shot out spider silk, sticking it to the bridge, and then continued leaping towards Su-yi and the Scarlet Witch, leaving only the little girl behind, dazed in place. What just happened? Why did I feel like someone grabbed my back, and then I was on the bridge? Where's Mom? Where did my mom go? Meanwhile, after Gwen went to save the car, Wanda turned her head, looked at the lizard man, extended her hand, and muttered, "If you break the bridge, I will turn you into a pile of pulp." Su-yi, what's going on? The Wanda I knew wasn't like this. Hearing Wanda's mature, charming, yet fierce voice, Suyi was startled. Wanda today is a bit fierce. She's completely different from when I consoled her the other day. When it comes to handling problems, she's like two different women. And the next moment, Tilda. As the scarlet magic energy gathered in the air. Roared Tilda. The lizard man sensed something was wrong. It immediately roared, picked up a rock, and threw it at Wanda. The huge rock traced an arc in the air, but Wanda's expression remained emotionless. She extended her left hand and clenched it towards the rock. Instantly, the rock, which was half a meter in diameter, stopped moving in midair. Wanda looked at the rock, then at the lizard man, and said coolly with great flair, "Taste your own attack." After saying that, Wanda flicked her left hand, and the rock, which had been suspended in the air, smashed towards the lizard man. The speed at which this rock smashed back was much, much faster than when it was thrown. Seeing that it couldn't dodge, the lizard man immediately extended its hands to protect its chest. Bang! With the dull sound of the rock colliding with flesh, whoosh Tilda, the lizard man flew backward and slammed into a wall, leaving an indentation. Whoa Tilda, Suyi found it very satisfying, just like watching a movie from a first-person perspective. No, wait, he is currently in a first-person perspective. And he's on the scene. He's right beside the Scarlet Witch. Good. Suyi looked at the lizard man lying on the ground, while his hand gave a thumbs up to Wanda. HMPH. Wanda snorted lightly, but this wasn't directed at Suyi, it was a snort of disdain for the lizard man. Wanda muttered to herself in a voice only she could hear, daring to ruin my plan to go see the Ferris wheel with Sue. You deserve to die. Suyi. He heard it, okay. He's at least above the Skyfather level, almost at the single universe level. He can still hear that much. Seeing Suyi raise an eyebrow, Wanda blinked and asked, "What's wrong, Sue?" "It's nothing." Suyi took a breath and shrugged, "You keep fighting." Just as he finished speaking, "Ladies and gentlemen, is there anything Iron Man can help with?" A flashy voice rang out. Tony was wearing his, what generation armor was it again? Don't know, forgot. It seemed to be the Mark 45 armor, the one equipped with Friday. At this time, Tony was still developing nanotechnology. So he didn't have that suit yet, the one stored on the plane that automatically attaches to his whole body with a single press, the Mark 46 armor. Bang Tilda. As Tony landed in the Mark 45 armor, he looked at the crowd, Wanda, and Suyi. Then he looked at the lizard man behind him and Gwen, who was rushing over. Finally, Tony looked at Suyi and asked, "Is it already resolved?" "You're late. Things are pretty much resolved." Suyi crossed his arms and asked skeptically, "You aren't here to steal the credit, are you?" Tony was about to explain. But the next moment, Suyi smiled and said, "Just kidding. You didn't come yourself, so you must be here to investigate." Huh. Wanda was stunned. Tony didn't come. Clack Tilda. At this moment, the faceplate of the Mark 45 armor opened. Sure enough, there was only empty space inside. Tony himself wasn't there. But Tony's voice and his usual gestures came from the armor. "All right, you're much smarter than Captain America, at least 10 times smarter. I'm still at the villa in Los Angeles, even flying from suborbit would take more than 10 minutes. So, after receiving the news, I remotely controlled the armor inside Stark Tower. Which is the me you see now." Clearly, Tony's true situation had been seen through by Suyi at a glance. With stars in Wanda's eyes, Suyi put his hands in his pockets and, looking at the armor with its faceplate closed, continued. "Then hurry up and investigate. This lizard man has been around for a few days, and it still hasn't been dealt with. This is clearly a mutated gene. If someone can control the spread of mutated genes, you superheroes will be roasted into retirement." Tony's armor nodded. He felt the same way. But before going to investigate, Tony walked over to Suyi and whispered, "I suspect this is a scandal involving the Osborn Group. But whether I use the power of Stark Industries or my identity as Iron Man, it's not easy to do anything to the Osborn Group. So I need your help. Use the power of a third party to resolve this crisis." Well said. Tony meant that. The Osborn Group is huge. Although Tony could take it down, no matter how he acts personally, it would make the crumbling building that is the Avengers even more precarious. If he gets framed for something else, then the Avengers would be finished. So Tony wanted someone else to solve this matter. But among those Tony knew who had the ability and weren't part of the Avengers, there was only Su-Yi. And that Spider-Woman. So Tony wanted Su-Yi to help. Well said. Su-Yi nodded. Good analysis. Doing this is indeed the best and safest approach. Right. Tony crossed his arms confidently. But the next moment. But why should I help you? I have no ability, nor do I get any benefits. Can't I even maintain my plain 9-to-5 life? Wanda strongly supported this point Su-Yi made. She had been in a similar situation to Su-Yi before. So, seeing that Su-Yi didn't want to help, Wanda stood by Su-Yi's side and said to Tony Stark, not everyone wants to be a superhero. Sue just wants to live a normal life, working happily every day. So even if you want to find a third party, you should go find that Spider-Woman, not come and bother Sue. After saying that, Wanda pointed at Gwen, who had just arrived on a nearby rooftop. Gwen was dumbfounded. She had just arrived and was already being pointed at. No, could it be that she committed some crime? In that instant, Gwen examined herself. She didn't. Could helping citizens and fighting criminals be considered a crime? And as Wanda pointed at her, Gwen got a little nervous. She was mainly worried that her image as Spider-Gwen shouldn't leave a bad impression in front of Su-Yi. Otherwise, how would she face Su-Yi in the future? And how could she use this identity to surprise Su-Yi? Tony controlled the Iron Man armor to turn around. He looked at Gwen on the rooftop and said, "Hi, Spider-Woman, I think we need to talk." No matter what, Gwen immediately shook her head. Not interested. Tony scratched his head in Los Angeles. The Iron Man armor in New York also scratched its head. He looked at Su-Yi and asked, "What should we do now?" Su-Yi shrugged. "How should I know? I am a psychologist, I can only provide guidance, not swindle people." Tony had no other choice. She wouldn't talk. Was he supposed to force a conversation? Wait, force a conversation. That might actually work. According to the data collected by Friday, this Spider-Woman is a righteous superhero. She proactively resolves crises and fights criminals, so she should be willing to help once she hears about it. So Tony turned around, ready to speak directly. "Listen, Spee." As soon as Tony turned around, Gwen was already gone. Gwen's figure was no longer on the rooftop. "Sir, she has already left." Friday pulled up the recording. The final street surveillance footage showed that Gwen had swung into an alley with spider silk and disappeared. Tony helplessly turned his head to look at Su-Yi again. Su-Yi didn't speak. He just silently turned his head and gazed at Wanda with the eyes of the #1 lover in New York. Wanda's cheeks flushed red under Su-Yi's gaze. She couldn't help but move closer to Su-Yi. Okay. The helpless Tony controlled the Iron Man armor to wave. "I'm leaving, I'm going, okay. I'm leaving right now. You guys continue beating up that fool lizard man, and I'll continue collecting evidence of the mutation. Then when the opportunity arises, I'll reveal the evidence to let the Osborn group self-destruct, okay?" After saying that, Tony pointed his hands downward, and with a spray from the 4 ports, he flew away. Then Su-Yi turned his head to look. A sneaky figure had crept to the seaside. Seeing Su-Yi turn his head, it immediately jumped into the sea with a splash and ran away. Wanda, who had just gotten into the mood, immediately snapped back to reality. "It got away. It's fine." Su-Yi patted Wanda's head. "With your power, encountering it again later will be as simple as crushing a bug." "Yeah," Wanda nodded. Then she suddenly realized something and grabbed Su-Yi's hand, running away. Su-Yi was confused. "Let's go. The bridge is fine, let's hurry to the Ferris wheel." Su-Yi looked back at the building, but Gwen is still waiting for us under the building. "It's fine, we'll go for a round first, then come back and take Gwen for a second round." "Is that okay? We'll just say fighting the lizard man was too difficult, and it ended up getting away." Quote. "Wanda, you've become bad." Even Su-Yi didn't expect this. Wanda would actually want to sneak off to have fun behind Gwen's back. "No, where did you learn that from? Or did you figure it out yourself?" Su-Yi severely condemned this behavior of Wanda in his heart. But physically, he silently followed Wanda as she hurried along. At this very moment, Wanda was holding Su-Yi's hand and running on the bridge where the battle had just taken place. Cars were scattered parked around on both sides. And Wanda, in this strangely romantic scene, pulled Suyi from one end to the other. Then she flagged down a car at the other end of the bridge. Wait, Wanda, this isn't a taxi. Seeing Wanda flag down a regular car, Suyi quickly advised her. Time is tight. If we go back late, Gwen will find out. We can just give him some extra dollar as compensation. After saying that, Wanda reached out and waved in front of the driver. Scarlet magic energy drilled into the driver's brain. Then the driver became focused on holding the steering wheel and only looking at the road. Then Wanda hurriedly pulled Suyi into the backseat and said to the driver, "Go to the Ferris wheel." Without saying a word, the driver stepped on the gas and drove off. This left Suyi dumbfounded. You know this kind of magic now. This kind of magic is mental magic. Wanda previously only knew how to cause interference. But now it's hypnotic control. The difference in difficulty between the two is huge. The former is like asking you to conjure a ball of fire. But the latter is equivalent to making you conjure a fire dragon. The difference in difficulty is like heaven and earth. I'm not sure either. Wanda shook her head, looked at her own hands, and then looked into Suyi's eyes. I just wanted it to be like that. I really wanted it to be like that. Then I used my magic, and it worked. Suyi, genius. Just relying on talent. Besides talent, what else do you even have? Isn't it just being curvy, hot, with long legs and long hair, and so on? All right, Suyi conceded. As expected, urgent moments always manage to spark one's potential. It's just that this urgency is a concept. How urgent it actually is depends on the person. But having said that, seeing that the car was about to arrive, Suyi was also curious why Wanda was in such a rush today. Wanda, why are you in such a rush today? Once these words were spoken, Wanda sighed and explained, we have an overseas mission tomorrow night. Someone is modifying weapons left behind by the Chidori civilization and shipping them to overseas battlefields. So we must go and stop them. Steve is adamant that these weapons must not enter the battlefield. So, what Wanda meant was that she had to go on a business trip. She didn't know how many days it would be before she could see Suyi again. So she had to hurry and fulfill the promise made a few days ago. Otherwise, who knows how many days it would be until they met again. But having said that, Suyi couldn't help but complain speechlessly. The overseas wars are all secretly instigated by the US president. And there's no regulation on domestic weapons. Now that the fighting overseas is intense, he wants to intervene. At the end of the day, he just hopes the fighting lasts as long as possible, rather than one side crushing the other and resolving it quickly. Wanda nodded in agreement. That's why she had no affection for this country, or for arms dealers and the like. Because Wanda's home was destroyed by weapons. Her parents were also killed by weapons. Her brother was also killed by weapons. Her country was also destroyed by weapons. How could you expect Wanda to have any affection for the US? She didn't even have much affection for the Avengers. To put it even more bluntly, if Wanda had to choose between the Avengers and Suyi, then Wanda would definitely choose Suyi with joy. This isn't a multiple choice question at all. This is a freebie. Just like that, a dozen minutes later, the taxi arrived near the Ferris wheel. Wanda hurriedly took out some dollars and placed them on the passenger seat. Suyi saw this and added some more. Let's go. Wanda excitedly grabbed Suyi's hand. Once we leave, he will be normal. Let's go. Suyi got out of the car with Wanda. Then he was dragged by Wanda as they hurried toward the bottom of the Ferris wheel. And after the two of them left, the driver immediately woke up. He immediately checked inside the car, only to find a small stack of $100 bills on the passenger seat. Wow, the driver excitedly picked up the dollars and counted them. 1, 2, 3, 10, 10. $1,000. Oh my mom, my children, our medical loan can be extended for another time. Our car doesn't have to be auctioned off. Amidst the driver's excitement, Wanda excitedly pulled Suyi to the ticket booth of the Ferris wheel and asked, how much? We want 2 tickets. In contrast to Wanda's excitement, the ticket seller shook his head and said, today is a maintenance day. The Ferris wheel can only be kept running, but no one can ride it. In an instant, Wanda's once bright eyes became dull. A wave of sadness and loneliness welled up in her heart. Su-yi felt this emotion. He smiled and whispered in Wanda's ear. I have a way, Wanda. A single sentence from Su-yi made Wanda turn her head instantly and stare intently into Su-yi's eyes. It was as if two threads of affection were intertwined between their eyes. Su-yi had just opened his mouth when he was actively covered by the passionate Wanda. Su-yi, what's going on? For the second time, why am I always the passive one? You like this? I actually quite like it. Cough, cough, cough. For a moment, Su-yi hadn't even finished speaking. The two began to lock lips, making smacking sounds. And what was different this time was, Wanda was the one initiating it in front of several people. It was different from last time. She no longer cared whether she was a superhero, or whether she held the status of an Avenger. At this moment, she just wanted to be a young girl falling in love. To taste that sweet romance. And Su-yi's lips, just like that. After the two battled for a few seconds. Tisk tilde. Su-yi pushed Wanda away first. There are too many people here, and you are a superhero. I don't care, Su. Wanda's charming eyes held the dew of spring. I am just an ordinary person, only with some special abilities. Good grief. You've learned from me, haven't you? Su-yi had said the same thing back then. He said he was unique. She just said she was special. Fine, I'll tell you how to ride the Ferris wheel. Su-yi scraped Wanda's cheek with his hand. Then he leaned into Wanda's ear and whispered, use your chaos magic to make them open it for us voluntarily. Wanda's eyes lit up, but she looked at the Ferris wheel and still asked doubtfully. But they said the Ferris wheel is in its maintenance period, and there is no one on it. That's not true, they are making up excuses. Su-yi shook his head. For large equipment like a Ferris wheel, the law requires routine maintenance every so often. But the time required by law is too short, and the cost of frequent maintenance is very expensive. So they use the maintenance period as an excuse to stop people from riding, thereby pretending that they have performed maintenance. But in reality, their maintenance is done during the off-season. They would never maintain it at a time like this. This is just to circumvent the law. Upon hearing Su-yi's explanation, Wanda suddenly realized. Detestable tilde. Wanda gritted her silver teeth and looked angrily at the Ferris wheel. However, Su-yi added again. Of course, this has nothing to do with the staff below, he is just following orders. So after we go up, you use magic to shield the glass, just like my Ferrari windows, so you can only look out from the inside. This way we can go up and have fun, and the staff below won't be unfairly fired. After listening to Su-yi's words, Wanda nodded in agreement. However, before using the magic this time, Wanda held Su-yi's hand, staring intently into his eyes, and said, Su-yi, you are really good, very good. You know how to respect others, even for an ordinary employee, you consider the consequences for him. That is the reason I like you, you are so fascinating. This was Wanda's heartfelt truth. From the first moment Wanda met Su-yi, Wanda had felt a huge sense of intimacy towards Su-yi because of her abilities. Then, starting from various daily details, she gradually grew to like Su-yi. Facing Wanda's near-confession tone, Su-yi neither tried to escape like a Japanese manga protagonist nor did he go straight for the kill like a US comic book protagonist. He reached out to stroke Wanda's cheek and, looking into her eyes, said slowly, Wanda, you are also different from other people. Other superheroes might have their own obsessions, the one thing they care about most. But you are different, you just want to live happily and stably. That is also the reason I think highly of you. You are living for yourself. After Su-yi finished speaking, the two were silent for a while. But Wanda's eyes became increasingly intoxicated. She pressed her cheek tightly against Su-yi's large hand and said, Our intentions are aligned. This is also the beginning of me falling in love with you. As soon as she finished speaking, Wanda didn't waste any more time. She took Su-yi's hand and went to the staff member. Just as the person was about to say something, Wanda extended her left hand and waved it in front of him. Scarlet chaos magic entered the person's brain. The next moment, the staff member opened the gate and said politely, Please come in. Wanda smiled and entered with Su-yi. Then the two entered one of the Ferris wheel cabins. After closing the door, Wanda tapped on the glass again. In an instant, the glass turned into one-way glass, allowing them to look out from the inside, while no one could see inside from the outside. After doing all this, the Ferris wheel started slowly. The two also rose slowly in the cabin. It was 8 o'clock in the evening in New York. The city was brightly lit. And as the Ferris wheel rose, their field of vision continuously expanded. This Ferris wheel could rise to nearly 200 meters at its highest point. It was the largest Ferris wheel in New York. Wanda was still holding Su-Yi's hand, sitting beside him, gazing at the New York nightscape and the distant horizon. As they watched, the capsule rose to nearly its highest point. Wanda turned her head, looking at Su-Yi's eyes, nose, and lips. Su-Yi knew that if he remained passive now, he really wouldn't be much of a man. So, without a word, Su-Yi reached out to cup the back of Wanda's head and pulled her in forcefully. Tilda. Down at the North Tower. Gwen. Why haven't they come back yet? Downstairs at the North Tower, Gwen had changed back into her previous clothes and was waiting in the lounge for Su-Yi and Wanda to return. However, Gwen did the math. That's not right, she calculated in her mind. Even at their slowest, with the Scarlet Witch's abilities, they should have been back by now. Gwen looked outside, but there was absolutely no sign of Su-Yi and Wanda returning. Forget it, I'll wait a little longer, they should be back soon. After some time, when Su-Yi and a slightly weak-kneed Wanda returned, Gwen spotted them immediately. She grabbed her little cyan backpack, rushed over to them, and said, "You're finally back. Let's go, we shouldn't wait until the Ferris wheel closes." Su-Yi recalled the pleasure he had just indulged in within the capsule and nodded, feeling a bit ashamed. Yeah, let's go. At the same time, Su-Yi told himself internally, Gwen, I will definitely make it up to you later, woo-woo-woo. Wanda, meanwhile, was completely satisfied, a faint smile lingering on her face. She took the initiative to greet Gwen, saying, let's hurry, the Ferris wheel is about to close, right, Su? Su-Yi nodded again, internally condemning himself. Right, let's go. In reality, though, whether the Ferris wheel was open or closed no longer mattered to them. Now, if Wanda wanted it to run, it ran. If she wanted it to stop, it stopped. Su-Yi's inner voice was criticizing him again. Wanda had been perfectly fine, so how did he manage to corrupt her? He hadn't even taught her anything. Regardless, half an hour later, the three of them arrived back at the Ferris wheel Su-Yi and Wanda had just ridden. It was the same old routine, the same old method. As Wanda secretly winked at Su-Yi, the three of them boarded the capsule once more. Wow, Tilda, Gwen pressed against the window, gazing at the New York nightscape in awe. It's so beautiful, Tilda. Anyone who didn't know better would think she was being genuine. This Ferris wheel was only 200 meters tall, and Gwen had certainly been up buildings much taller than that. However, the specific reason was the difference in perspective. The position and angle of this Ferris wheel allowed for a bystander's view of the entire New York landscape, especially the Manhattan area. The crisscrossing grid layout, while not actually efficient, was truly beautiful to behold. Coupled with the Central Park in the center, stretching over 10 kilometers long and several kilometers wide, Manhattan looked like a neat, precise circuit board from high above, with Central Park resembling a CPU. It was remarkably similar, but it was also quite beautiful. Seeing this, Su-Yi suddenly thought of something and asked Gwen with a smile, Gwen, how is that friend of yours doing? Gwen suddenly tensed up, her toes curling. She thought for a moment, then gathered her thoughts and said, she's doing well. She's following what you said, Sue, and is slowly trying to get used to and engage with new things. I believe it won't be long before she can come out and meet people. At this, Gwen looked at Su-Yi and said firmly, in just a little more time, she will definitely be willing to open up to all her friends about her situation. I promise. This friend seemed quite real. Su-Yi nodded, feeling reassured, and said, it seems my method has helped your friend. That's good, just let your friend take her time getting used to things. There's no rush. Listening to Su-Yi's gentle words, Gwen felt as though her heart was melting. She nodded sweetly and shyly, okay, I will tell her. And so, it was. After the Ferris wheel slowly finished one full rotation, Gwen stood before the glass, pointing at the Ferris wheel's ticket booth and said, it's Black Widow. Su-Yi and Wanda looked over, and it was indeed Natasha. Oh no. Seeing Natasha, Wanda looked at Suyi with a hint of sadness. I have to go. Tomorrow's mission requires preparation in advance. It's okay. Suyi patted Wanda's head and smiled. We'll see each other again in a few days. You can come find me again after you're done with your mission. It's no problem. Besides, your magic can open spatial teleports or open portals. Once you become powerful, you will be able to go anywhere you want, no matter where you are. As soon as he said this. Really? Wanda and Gwen asked in surprise. Yes, I'm certain. Suyi nodded. The power of magic is great, and Wanda's magic is the greatest among the great. So you must believe in yourself, there is nothing you cannot do. Wanda looked at her own hands. She hadn't expected herself to be as powerful as Suyi said. But regardless, Wanda felt more confident. I understand, I will learn these abilities as soon as possible. As the cabin door opened, Suyi and the others got off the Ferris wheel and approached Natasha. Natasha watched the three of them enjoying their time. She also apologized. Sorry, Wanda, but the report on today's Lizardman crisis incident needs to be compiled before tonight. So I had to come and find you early. Anyway, they had done what they needed to do today. Wanda nodded with slight satisfaction, and after hugging Suyi, she said as she left. Let's go then. I don't want to waste any time. Good grief. Even Suyi could feel Wanda's instant transformation. Just a moment ago in front of Suyi, she was still an affectionate fangirl. Now, back with the Avengers, she was a cool, mature woman being efficient. Playing with contrasts. After Suyi and Gwen watched Wanda leave, the two looked at each other and both sighed helplessly. Being a superhero is just that busy. You say there's something going on, but it's not like there's something every day. But you say there's nothing going on, yet you never get to rest either. Seeing this, Suyi muttered to himself, anyway, I'm not going to be a superhero. It's too busy and exhausting. Gwen thought about it after hearing this and nodded too. I don't want to be one either. It feels like working a job. If possible, I think it would be better to be a freelance superhero. Fight criminals when you encounter them, and live a normal life when you don't. How great would that be? Gwen was right. Suyi approvingly extended his fist. Gwen also extended her hand and bumped fists with Suyi. This represented that the two were of the same mind. But come to think of it, Spider-Gwen's personality is actually really like this. Among all versions of Spider-Man, Spider-Gwen is definitely the most homebody and the most honest one. She handles things better, and she is the most rational. That's why Gwen said just now that she didn't want to be a professional superhero. Instead, she wanted to be a freelance superhero. That's quite good. Anyway, Suyi's thoughts were similar to Gwen's. Professional. Not doing it. Driven by interest. Okay, no problem, let's do it. That's the difference. Wanda had pretty much the same idea. That's why the three of them were attracted to each other. Suyi checked the time. It was already 9:30 p.m. Only then did Suyi remember something. He looked at Gwen and asked, Gwen, do you have a curfew at home? Gwen's family is very good. Her father is the director of the New York Police Department. So it's very normal to have a curfew. Gwen's eyes widened. She immediately reacted and asked, what time is it now? 9:30. Oh no, Sue, I have to be home by 10 o'clock at the latest. As soon as she finished speaking, before Suyi could say anything, Gwen grabbed Suyi's hand and started running, saying, let's go quickly. Sure enough, Gwen really did have a curfew. And because of her father's position, this curfew might be very strict. So Suyi was dragged over by Wanda around 7 or 8 in the evening. Now, he was being dragged back by Gwen at 9:30. What does this mean? Swinging back and forth, right? The two needed to get from this district back to the other within half an hour. Fortunately, Spider-Gwen does not live in Queens, the farthest district, like the other Spider-Man. Otherwise, they really wouldn't have made it back in half an hour. Just like that, the two ran across lawns and streets, hailed a passing taxi, and crossed bridges and highways. Finally, at 9:55 p.m., the taxi stopped on the side of the road not far from Gwen's house. Suyi threw down the money. He hurried to take Gwen home. Finally, at 9:58, Sue, goodbye, have a good dream tonight, Tilda. Sleep well, Gwen. Soo-yi also waved his hand and replied, also, your performance was excellent. Hearing the last sentence, Gwen was so happy she almost jumped up. She joyfully blew a kiss to Soo-yi from a distance. Then she hurriedly took the key out of her bag and opened the door to go inside at the very last minute. I'm home. I didn't exceed the time. Soo-yi stood outside the house. After watching Gwen enter the door, he turned around to leave. Sir, wait a moment, I think we need to have a talk. At this moment, a figure emerged from the side door of Gwen's house and called out to Soo-yi. Soo-yi turned his head and realized it was the director of the New York Police Department, George Stacy. After calling Soo-yi, George walked over to him unhurriedly, looked him over first, and then nodded with satisfaction. He reached out slightly and gestured cordially. I think it might take a little time. Perhaps we can find a place to sit and chat. Soo-yi first checked the time. 10:03. There was enough time, so he might as well chat. So Soo-yi nodded, turned around, and gestured, let's go. Just like that, the two men walked and talked as they headed toward the nearest bar. Sir, where did you meet my daughter, Gwen? After saying this, George apologized to Soo-yi first. Sorry, I am a police officer, so my way of speaking might be a bit strange. George only said he was a police officer. He did not mention he was the director. So he was genuinely trying to get to know the person who brought his daughter back. Moreover, George's attitude was good. His way of speaking was not bad either. So Soo-yi nodded, indicating it was fine, and was willing to chat with George. At a medical exchange meeting. At the time, your daughter was with a research team, and that's where we met. Upon hearing this, George was delighted. At a medical exchange meeting, that meant Soo-yi was someone related to medicine. It also meant his daughter wasn't associating with those unsavory or unproductive types. At the very least, he was a learned and capable person. You have to know that doctors in the USA are very sought after. Any doctor is sought after. As long as you have ability, you don't have to worry about the future. So this point made George very satisfied. So it was that medical exchange meeting. I heard that the famous surgeon Dr. Stephen Strange attended as well. And a psychologist who isn't widely known but is very famous within the industry. That was a good medical exchange meeting. Everyone who went was elite. Sir, which team did you go with? Soo-yi. Good question, Gwen's dad. You've completely stumped me. Soo-yi thought about it for 0.01 seconds. If he directly showed off, he might leave George speechless. It would be better for him to let George discover the issue himself. That way, he could show off smoothly. And it would make him seem modest. So Soo-yi thought for a moment and said indifferently. I went with a friend. That's right, Stephen was his friend to begin with. Soo-yi didn't say anything wrong, nor did he make anything up. I see, then your friend must be quite excellent too. George nodded with satisfaction again. Why? Because those who go with a group or a mentor are all interns. Or assistants or something. But someone who can go individually is different. And he went with a friend. This means Soo-yi is very likely a doctor. And his friend is a doctor too. That is wonderful. This shows that my daughter's friends are all good people. A doctor, at that. This is not something those fresh out of school street kids in Queens can compare to. George would not want his daughter to be friends with those street kids. But a doctor, that is perfectly okay. Just like that, the two of them walked and chatted. George was becoming more and more satisfied with Soo-yi. He was just one step away from saying, you are my son-in-law to be. The two walked along the street until they encountered an oak-themed bar. Note, bars in the United States aren't all about clubbing and headbanging. There are many types of bars here. For instance, whiskey bars only sell whiskey and water. Oak bars sell only the brews from oak barrels, and there are many other kinds. In short, there are many categories, and you can find one that suits your personality. The bar the two encountered was one where the decorations were all made of oak. It was relatively quiet inside, with relaxing music playing on the radio. The two entered the bar. Since George was the one who invited Soo-yi to talk, George paid for the drinks directly. What would you like to drink? Oh, right, can you drink alcohol? I can, I just don't drink often. Just get me something with a lighter taste. Then let's have 2 lighter ones. After ordering the drinks, 2 glasses of brew were served shortly after. However, these were not small. Suyi noticed they were large, 1-liter mugs. The kind of mug handle that requires a full grip. Both of them lifted their mugs and took a sip. George was satisfied once again. Suyi had just said he didn't drink much, and in George's eyes, that was perfect. It's only right for a doctor not to drink much. George nodded with satisfaction, took a sip of his drink, and opened up. Honestly, I was very worried that the friends Gwen made wouldn't be very good, but judging by the situation just now, I think you are quite capable. Suyi also took a sip and replied calmly. Mr. George, Gwen is very smart. You don't have to think of her as the same child she was when she was little. She has grown up and has her own thoughts. You need to guide her, not lead her on a leash. Suyi's words made George's eyes light up. Listen to that eloquence. This is not something an ordinary person could say. Yes, you are very right, so I didn't stop her from making friends, but I have to watch her to ensure she doesn't make the wrong kind of friends. Of course, I'm not referring to you. You know, I am a member of the police, and I have seen too much of the darkness and chaos in society. That is why I pay more attention to my daughter's safety and future. Suyi took another sip of his drink and nodded in agreement. I think you did the right thing regarding that. Daughters should be raised well, and one should pay more attention to their character and perspective. Only then can your daughter become an outstanding woman. I believe that medical exchange conference was something you agreed to and supported her in attending. After Suyi finished speaking, George, who had just taken a sip of his drink, was filled with shock inside. He was rating Suyi higher and higher now. Just a moment ago, it had jumped significantly. Suyi's words let George know that Suyi was no ordinary person. Ordinary people or brash youngsters would definitely not have such a train of thought or such words. He was a member of the police, and the director of the police station at that. He had seen, talked to, and experienced too many human hearts. But someone like Suyi was very rare. This left George a bit confused. Who exactly was Suyi? Yes, that's right. George came back to his senses, put down his glass, and said, I wanted her to see more impressive people at the exchange conference. Speaking of this, George didn't want to beat around the bush. He checked the time. It was almost 11 p.m. If he didn't return, Gwen's mother probably wouldn't let him in. So George simply asked directly. By the way, I still don't know your name. Suyi. After Suyi finished, he looked at George with a smile, asking a question he already knew the answer to. Didn't Gwen tell you? Wait. The moment he heard the name, George's eyes widened, and he finally realized. Thea that Gwen talked about at the dinner table, so this is the full name. The moment Suyi's full name came out, George, as the director of the police station, immediately realized that the Sue Gwen had mentioned before was Suyi. I should have thought of that earlier. It's all because the Lizardman incident had me so frazzled. George cursed himself silently, then said in a shocked, sudden realization. So your friend is Stephen Strange. Suyi finished the last sip of his drink and placed the glass on the table. I took his car to the exchange conference that day. George. It dealt a heavy blow to George, completely sinking him. George recalled what he had said on the road just now. Top surgeon Stephen, and top psychologist in the circle, Suyi. He now wished there was a hole in the ground he could crawl into. Who would have known that the Sue his daughter sometimes mentioned was actually Suyi? Although the characters were the same, George never imagined that his daughter would know Suyi. It's just like your child going out and picking up a piece of gold. Would you believe she could find one? Yet, she actually did. That was the reason why George never even considered this possibility. But now he knew. George was extremely happy inside. But in reality, he felt a bit at a loss. Yes, he was a police director. But in the United States, the authority of a top doctor is very high. And this doctor's relationship with his daughter was not simple. With these two dual identities stacked together, the buff was maxed out. George had no idea what tone he should use to speak, or how to continue the conversation. No wonder George felt Suyi wasn't simple based on his police intuition and instincts earlier. It turned out he really wasn't simple. So how should he chat now? Besides, time was up, and George had to go home. But since they had just met, wouldn't it be awkward to just say he was going home? At this, George had a massive headache. However, Su-yi could sense everything he was feeling inside. And the drinks were finished. Su-yi was also ready to go home. So Su-yi checked his watch, stood up, and said, "Mr. George, I have to go home too. It was a pleasure chatting with you, you are a qualified father. Gwen is so outstanding, it must be due to your influence." When Su-yi said this, George immediately smiled sheepishly. The corners of his mouth curled up. "I just tried my best to do what a father should do." "You are also very outstanding, Mr. Su. It is Gwen's luck to have a friend like you." The two of them exchanged pleasantries. The barrier between the two men instantly vanished. That's right, that's how men are. Finally, after George and Su-yi shook hands, they greeted each other and left. Watching Su-yi and her father leave on good terms, Gwen, on the rooftop, breathed a sigh of relief. Then, she quickly left the rooftop and arrived home a step earlier than George. On the other side, after ending a day of madness, Su-yi finally returned to his room on the top floor of the North Tower. As soon as he entered, he kicked off his shoes. Su-yi flopped onto the soft, wide bed and let out a long sigh. Phew, how should he put it? Today was quite enjoyable. But he also felt inexplicably tired. Maybe it was mental fatigue. But regardless, the gains today were definitely huge. And tomorrow would be another day full of hope. The next day, as Su-yi continued to slack off at work and clock out after work, Wanda went abroad to carry out a mission involving crossbones. At the same time, because of last night's incident, Wanda and Gwen's reputations became very high in society. But there were also some rumors. Scarlet Witch battles the mutant lizard man again. The goddess violently KOs the opponent. The lizard man escapes into the sea. Why did the mutant lizard man appear? Does Iron Man's Midway entry mean it's related to a tech company? Spider-Woman saves several children, pulling a car up with her bare hands on the bridge. She is the true superhero. Who is he? Why has he appeared twice with both Scarlet Witch and Spider-Woman? Scarlet Witch and Spider-Woman's shared boyfriend appears. Two superheroes actually share the same boyfriend. So envious, no, so sinful. Just like that, yesterday's events were being spread all over the internet in a chaotic mess. Mainly about Wanda and Gwen. Secondly, Iron Man and the Lizard Man. And him, a side rumor. Mainly because there were all sorts of rumors online. Although some people were right, it looked a bit strange. Calling it a shared boyfriend was just too. Alright. It was just entertainment news anyway, let them say whatever they want. It wasn't bad news, or disgusting news. So it didn't really matter. However, Gwen seemed to have something going on. She had recently been circling around New York several times, searching for and investigating something. Su-yi sensed this, but he wouldn't proactively interfere in other people's business. If Gwen encountered any issues, she would definitely come to him. Additionally, Steven was performing surgery. His surgery schedule was completely packed. During this time, Steven even called to complain about being tired to death. Although he was raking in the money, he was both physically and mentally exhausted and needed to let off some steam. He also said that when he could rest, he would take Su-yi to the racetrack to go racing, drifting, and such. Anyway, Su-yi had nothing to do, and he had never tried racing before, so Su-yi agreed. Therefore, Su-yi had been in a state of slacking off for the past few days. No, wait, he was always slacking off. It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon again. Su-yi was still lying on the reclining chair, yawning and watching TV. Occasionally, he would play computer games or scroll through his phone. Well, multitasking. At this moment, the TV suddenly broadcast an international news report. At 2:19 p.m. today, the Avengers defeated an international terrorist organization trafficking weapons, crossbones, and all members of the terrorist organization were arrested. Among them, the superhero, Scarlet Witch, descended like a goddess during this mission, using magic to single-handedly eradicate the most powerful unit of the terrorist organization. She also saved civilians from several countries, including Wakanda. The strength of this terrorist organization is... This incident has been named the Lagos Incident. Wanda's popularity soars. Seeing the news report, this was within Su Yi's expectations, yet it also brought a little surprise. It was expected because this was something he knew would happen. Moreover, in the plot, Scarlet Witch Wanda was the one who accidentally injured civilians and Wakanda people here. This matter was very serious at the time. It was serious enough to be the catalyst for pushing the Sokovia Accords. However, now, this incident had actually been perfectly resolved. And the person who resolved it was none other than Wanda. In the televised clip, Wanda's expression was like an ice-cold goddess. She waved her hands, and the enemy's jeeps and trucks were instantly pinned in place. Then, Wanda clenched one hand. The clip ended there. There was no need to imagine, the people inside were definitely in a miserable state. Wanda's chaos magic grip could easily crush a swarm of rats into a mist of blood. Even now, with trucks instead of rats, just listening to the clanging in the background, you knew the opponents were done for. Su Yi nodded with satisfaction. Wanda had grown up. She had grown from a woman who didn't want to use magic into a cold scarlet goddess in the public eye. And this was her work persona, not her everyday self. So, Wanda was quite interesting. Meanwhile, at the site of the Lagos incident. After the incident was resolved, the Avengers were resting nearby, preparing to evacuate. Captain America looked at the report, nodded with satisfaction, and said, "Everyone did a great job. All the weapons have been recovered and are ready to be destroyed. You are all superheroes, you are all excellent." Clap, clap, clap. Applause broke out at the scene. Wanda stood to the side, looking in the direction of New York, lost in thought. After the applause ended, Wanda turned around and asked Captain America indifferently, "When are we going back?" The scene fell silent. Everyone gave Wanda great respect this time. You have to know that in her individual performance just now, Wanda used both hands. One hand crushed a jeep. One hand crushed a truck. This terrifying combat power made everyone wonder, had Wanda's destructive power already surpassed the missing Hulk? Her performance also won Wanda the recognition and respect of everyone. "We should be able to go back tonight, Wanda." Captain America smiled as he finished saying this. Wanda nodded, walked to a spot nearby, and sat down to rest. After seeing a world map nearby, Wanda picked it up, found her own location, and then found the location of New York to look at the distance. Thousands of kilometers. Wanda sighed in her heart. She really wanted to learn the teleportation magic that Su Yi mentioned right now, immediately, and go back to New York to spend her life with Su Yi. Unfortunately, she couldn't do that yet. She would have to wait until tonight to go back. Wanda. At this moment, Natasha walked over from the side. She came up to Wanda, took out a tissue, and said, "There is a drop of blood on your cheek, wipe it off." Wanda took the tissue. She picked up a piece of broken glass the size of a palm and looked at it. There was a drop of blood below her left cheek. It had already trickled down, leaving a streak of blood. However, this streak of blood didn't make Wanda look ugly at all. On the contrary, this drop of blood made Wanda look even more filled with a scarlet charm. It was just like the blood on the corner of a vampire queen's mouth. Click tilde. A war photographer in the distance snapped a photo of Wanda picking up the broken glass to wipe away the bloodstain. Of course, you don't need to worry about any repercussions. Because this war photographer was arranged by the Avengers. Do you understand? It means that whether these photos and videos get uploaded or not has to be reviewed by the Avengers first. And that photo of Wanda just now. As long as Wanda has no objections, it won't affect the Avengers. Then it can be uploaded. Moreover, in this battlefield shoot, Wanda's photos were absolutely the most numerous of the entire scene. Too many wonderful moments were captured. And what everyone didn't know was that once these photos were uploaded to the internet, they would bring a skyrocketing increase to Wanda's popularity. New York, Stark Tower. At the same time the Avengers were resolving the local issue, Tony also received news of their success. "Sir, here is the data." Friday organized the data, and as soon as Tony looked at it, he couldn't help but laugh. So, they relied on the Scarlet Witch to defeat the enemy. But have they considered that by resolving the crisis with such overt force, who do the locals actually think destroyed their homes? Tony smiled and waved his hand, throwing the digital data into the recycle bin. However, Friday reminded him, "Sir, although the Avengers will once again face criticism and opposition, the popularity of the superhero Scarlet Witch is on the rise. On the US internet, quite a few citizens have already proposed that the Scarlet Witch leave the Avengers and become a free superhero. Data collection shows that the Scarlet Witch's popularity has far exceeded other superheroes, following closely behind you and Captain America. If this rate of growth continues, it is estimated that within 1 to 3 years, she will completely surpass your and Captain America's popularity in society. Tony. He was just calling Captain America an idiot, and now it was Tony's turn to be confused. How long have he and Captain America been active? And now they are about to be surpassed by someone who just debuted. Tony looked at the data table Friday had listed. In the support ranking of all superheroes, first of all, he and Captain America were the highest, this was indisputable. But right below the two of them was the Scarlet Witch. And the Scarlet Witch was far ahead of all the other superheroes below her. Alright, Tony rubbed the corners of his eyes and shook his head helplessly. How did a psychological counseling session lead her onto the path of glory? Forget it, I'd better hurry up and upgrade my armor. Nanotech armor technology is about to have a breakthrough. What had Tony been doing, hiding at home all this time? Naturally, it was researching nanotechnology. The next day, when the morning sun bathed the earth, Su-Yi still hadn't woken up. When the busy office workers were walking down the street, munching on sandwiches on their way to work, Su-Yi still hadn't woken up. After the world had been running for a few hours, Su-Yi finally got up. Of course, he wasn't sleeping the whole time. He had just woken up and was playing games in bed, unwilling to get up. Ahem. But when the time passed 8:30, Su-Yi got up and washed up at 8:40, showered and changed at 8:50, went out and went downstairs at 8:55, entered the door and sat down before 9 o'clock. See, very punctual, right? Isn't it? It's just that he didn't eat breakfast. Just order takeout. Anyway, it doesn't matter what you eat. Then, Su-Yi spent the whole morning slacking off. However, a guest arrived in the afternoon. The guest spoke about her own distress. I am full of despair for this world. I feel like living has no meaning, but I am afraid of death, and the whole world is full of danger everywhere. What should I do? Su-Yi sensed her inner thoughts. Lack of security, loneliness, decadence. So his answer was very simple. If you have money, find something to do, for example, buy a house by the mountains to build a private shelter, and contact like-minded friends to join you. Or you could try traveling the world. There are plenty of places more dangerous than this. Clearly, the other party was the descendant of a wealthy person. Just too bored and lonely. But the other party actually intended to try getting the thing Su-Yi mentioned. That is, a shelter. But don't think Su-Yi was trying to scam the other party. In the US, there really are people who specialize in shelters, and they sell like hotcakes. And aren't you lacking a sense of security? Wouldn't a shelter do? After the customer paid and left, Su-Yi continued to slack off until it was time to clock out in the afternoon. Click tilde. As the door closed, Su-Yi silently chanted in his heart, clock in. Clock in successful. Obtained. Kryptonian General Zod template. Kryptonian Superman. Isn't that just the standard version of Superman? The maximum power of the standard Superman can only reach below the single universe level. Whether he can beat a single universe level is hard to say. It depends on the level of energy absorbed. It's a pity it wasn't Silver Superman. If it were Silver Superman, he could start at the multiverse level. He could wipe out the Celestials with a wave of his hand. Even the living tribunal would get a few slaps in the face if they encountered him. But never mind. At least the standard Superman strengthens Su-Yi's physical abilities significantly. At the very least, Su-Yi doesn't have to worry about assassins ambushing him or anything like that. After all, the physical strength of a Superman body is clear for all to see. As for kryptonite and other side effects, just purifying them is enough. Speaking of which, Su-Yi had previously blocked his clock-in rewards. After all, he couldn't get good things every day. So sometimes Su-Yi would just leave them and save them up for a few days to check all at once. It feels more satisfying that way. Just like a multi-draw. Now let's see what he has clocked in these past few days. Su-Yi checked the recent clock-in rewards. Reward: the complete set of Tom and Jerry cartoons. Reward: Planet Engine X100. Reward: Medusa Queen's Bra X1. Reward: Allspark X1. Reward. Singularity Godzilla Pet Cub X1. Suyi. What is all this? It's all comics and cartoons. What use are the planet engines to him? Push Earth away. And leave Thanos looking confused when he comes to pull it. Thanos. Where is Earth? And the Allspark. This thing is interesting, but not very useful. But the most interesting one is probably the last one. Singularity Godzilla Pet Cub. There's actually a living creature. Suyi has some impression of Singularity Godzilla. It seems to be one of the strongest versions of all Godzillas. Singularity Godzilla is immortal, or it could be called Cosmic Godzilla. Just like a cosmic singularity, after it grows up, it has terrifying energy and various abilities. Simply put, it's a bit like the Celestials and Galactus. Alright, since it's a pet, might as well keep it. Anyway, it listens to him. Suyi thought for a moment. Then let's throw it near the island nation to develop. There's more nutrition there. After deciding, snap tilde. Suyi snapped his fingers. The next moment, he appeared in the sky above the Pacific Ocean near Fukushima. The Phoenix Force can teleport through space. This is very simple for Suyi. As for why he didn't use his Superman ability to fly. One word, lazy. Next, Suyi wrapped himself in energy and sank into the sea. Then he took the Godzilla cub out of the system. Ying tilde. The moment the Godzilla cub came out, a somewhat feminine whimpering sound appeared in Suyi's mind. Suyi looked at Godzilla's appearance, stroked its head, and thought. Go on, work hard, and develop well. I'll come back to see you every once in a while. When you grow up, you might even be able to grow big or small and tear through space to find me. It was whimpering and didn't want to leave. Suyi smiled helplessly, but still patted its head. Little guy, New York can't support you. You should develop here first. When you grow up, or can change your size, I'll take you back. You can wreak havoc here first. No, wait, just grow up here. Grow up quickly. After saying that, Suyi suddenly remembered. Godzilla can grow by absorbing nuclear fusion energy, right? And strictly speaking, any high-energy substance will do. Isn't the energy from the planet engine that Suyi signed in for nuclear fusion? It seems to be heavy nuclear fusion or something. Doesn't that make it perfect for the little guy to eat? Alright, thinking of this, Suyi first sank to the seabed. Then, he controlled his energy to establish a force field on the seabed. Finally, he took out the heavy nuclear fusion reactor from within a planet engine. Actually, the reactor fuel was only 2 meters in diameter. The protective force field Suyi created only needed to be a little over 2 meters wide. This way, as long as Godzilla was near it, it could continuously absorb the energy from the reactor. Okay, after the spherical reactor was placed into the force field by Suyi, Ying tilde. The little guy saw it and immediately lay comfortably on the heavy nuclear fusion reactor sphere. Suyi patted the little guy's head one last time and said, I'm leaving. I'll come to see you when I have time. Ying tilde, listening to the little guy's clingy and pitiful sound, Suyi smiled. Snap tilde, then he snapped his fingers and left. Back home. Suyi hadn't expected that he would be able to raise a Godzilla in the wild. And it was the top-tier Godzilla, Godzilla's singular point. Suyi didn't know exactly how much it could grow. What if Suyi managed to get 5 Infinity Stones and fed them all to Godzilla? Then it would become an Infinity Stone Godzilla, right? We'll see later. After finishing the business with Godzilla, Suyi remembered another item he had signed in for. Allspark. How should one describe the Allspark? It can turn machinery with a power source into mechanical life. Yes, that is to say, the Allspark can allow machines to develop a soul. But for a machine to become alive, it must have a power source. For example, engines, batteries, reactors, etc. So, strictly speaking, the Allspark is somewhat similar to the Soul Stone, but their areas of focus are completely different. Wait, Suyi suddenly thought, since it can bring evolution to machines with power sources, would a planet engine work? The planet engine is a machine and it has a power source, it's just super huge. It's probably several thousand meters tall. If this turned into a robot, wouldn't it be even bigger than those Pacific Rim mechs? However, Suyi thought about it. Forget it. He shook his head and decided to forget it for now. I won't transform the planet engine for now. This thing is too big, I can't contain it. Besides, it's an unknown whether it can even transform something that large. But I can transform my sports car first. Having said that, Suyi went out and took his private elevator down to the underground garage. Then, he found his car in the VIP spot. Oh, right, there are cameras. Snap tilde. Suyi snapped his fingers, making the cameras display a normal feed for half an hour. Then Suyi took out the Allspark. The next moment, a square-shaped, special metal block appeared in Suyi's hand. The moment the Allspark appeared, with Suyi as the center, the cars in the underground garage seemed to boil with activity. Suyi just held the Allspark, then lightly tapped it against the hood of the Ferrari. Cling tilde. Then he placed it on the hood. The next moment, a ripple of metal spread from the Allspark across the entire car. Then, the entire car body began to show metal waves like ocean waves. Suyi took a few steps back. Cling tilde ding tilde. The Ferrari began to transform into the form of a Transformers. First, the wheels retracted inward. The engine was adjusted to the chest cavity. The car doors transformed into sharp blades on its arms. The transmission system reverted into legs. Just like that, under Suyi's watchful gaze. The Ferrari transformed into a 9-meter-tall transformer, its entire body a fiery red like a phoenix. Clang tilde. As the transformer's faceplate slid open, it knelt on the ground, holding the Allspark in both hands and respectfully offering it to Suyi, speaking in a deep voice. Thank you, Creator, Master, thank you for granting me life. Suyi took the Allspark. Then he tossed it back into the system space. From now on, just call me boss. Master is for girls to call me, not you. Yes, boss. The transformer remained kneeling and said, please bestow a name upon me, boss. A name. The Ferrari's fiery red body looked just like flames. In any case, there was no Skyfire in this world. Suyi nodded and named it directly. Skyfire. Understood. After naming it, Suyi walked over to Skyfire to examine the details. One very interesting point was, there was no Transformer insignia on Skyfire's body. Therefore, it was neither a Decepticon nor an Autobot. However, Suyi found his own name engraved on it. Suyi. He had to admit, the engraving looked great, and Suyi was very satisfied. This was truly his own exclusive Transformer. Not part of some faction or another. Skyfire. It would only obey his commands. Vroom tilde. Vroom tilde tilde tilde. As the engine roared to life, a Ferrari, even cooler, sleeker, and more badass than before, drove out of the North Tower's underground garage and straight onto the highway. Sitting in the driver's seat of the sports car, Suyi lightly tapped the accelerator, and the Ferrari immediately bolted like a wild horse. Ha 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 tilde. This feeling of being pushed back into his seat really felt great to Suyi. This was different from the feeling of flying. This is a mount, you know. Skyfire, what are your 0 to 100 and 0 to 400 times in supercar mode? 0 to 100 and 0 to 400 meters refer to the time it takes to accelerate from a standstill to those distances. So, naturally, the shorter the time, the better. Skyfire answered immediately. 1.6 seconds and 6.2 seconds. Wahoo tilde. These stats were absolutely insane. Let me try. Hearing this, Suyi didn't hesitate to drive onto a highway with no speed limit. Then he slowly pressed the accelerator to the floor, feeling the lightning fast speed. Vroom tilde 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 tilde. In an instant, on this no-limit highway, Suyi's Ferrari continued to accelerate. Meanwhile, a silver GTR was also testing its performance after being recently modified and tuned. On the GTR's dashboard, as the owner floored the pedal, the speed kept climbing. This is awesome, the owner shouted. But in the next moment, vroom, after a sudden blast of wind resistance, the GTR owner could only see a blur of a red car body. Soon after, the owner could only see the other car's taillights. What the? The owner looked down at the speedometer. 321 kilometers per hour. He was already going that fast. Yet the other car had smoked him in seconds. Then the other car must be going over 400. No, my car needs more mods. And so, after leaving a random car owner in tears, Suyi got off the highway. He drove along the coastal road. It was late by then. And looking out at the sea, he couldn't see very far anymore. But a news story appearing on his phone caught Soo-yi's attention. Top American surgeon Dr. Stephen Strange was involved in a car accident last night. Strange woke up this evening and stated that his hands were injured and he will no longer practice medicine. Seeing this, Soo-yi sighed softly. What was meant to happen had happened. Stephen had to go through this ordeal to become the Sorcerer Supreme. As his friend, Soo-yi did feel a bit uncomfortable. However, although he could not help him directly, he could help him indirectly. Fire, go to the best hospital in New York. On the road. The Ferrari automatically adjusted its direction and drove towards the best hospital in New York. 20 minutes later, the Ferrari stopped downstairs at the hospital. Soo-yi opened the car door and got out, contacting someone who could ensure he would not exactly have free rein here, but at least allow him to visit freely. 5 minutes later, with a clatter, the door opened. Soo-yi walked in from the door. Stephen's hands were tied to fixed medical equipment, and he turned his head to look at Soo-yi. Hissed Tilda. Seeing Soo-yi arrive, Stephen first hissed in pain. Then, a faint smile tugged at his lifeless face as he said, "You're fast. You arrived just half an hour after the news broke. But forget about going racing with you ever again." Stephen's hands were fixed to the medical equipment. And all 10 fingers were firmly locked by bone pins, fixators, and other devices. Stephen only felt a little pain right now. It was just because he had just woken up and had been given morphine to release the news. Once the morphine wore off, as a doctor, Stephen knew how much it would hurt later. Soo-yi didn't say anything. He just came to the side of his bed, looking at Stephen and his battered hands. Inside the ward, it was terrifyingly quiet for a moment. Stephen could feel it. Soo-yi's silence was because he truly cared, not for any other reason. And Soo-yi could also feel Stephen's despair and pain. He was not even 30. Yet the path of his life had already been cut short. This despair for the future was truly an immense pressure. It was as if someone were gripping your heart. And Stephen was in exactly this state. Hiss. At this moment, Stephen gasped in cold air. It had been over half an hour. He knew the effect of the potent morphine was about to wear off. Just another dozen minutes or so. What awaited him was the heart-wrenching, agonizing pain of his fingers. And if he wanted to recover well in the future, he couldn't take any more painkillers. He had to endure it. Stephen knew what he was about to face. Who tilde. He let out a long breath and forced a final smile at Soo-yi. Sue, you should go back. I can feel your sincerity. If you don't mind, I'll come find you to hang out when I get better. It's just my hands that are ruined, not that I'm broke. I have enough money to last me half a lifetime. We'll go out and have fun then, right?" Hearing these words, Soo-yi nodded, then shook his head. Stephen didn't understand what that meant. But the next moment, Soo-yi reached out and hovered his hand over Stephen's hands. Under Stephen's shocked gaze, a golden red energy seeped into Stephen's hands. And Stephen could feel his fingers becoming a bit itchy, and the pain had also subsided significantly. After finishing the operation, Soo-yi withdrew his hand, looked at Stephen's currently bewildered eyes, and said, "This energy will help you recover faster and reduce some of the pain." After saying that, Soo-yi turned and walked towards the door. Then he turned and left directly, leaving only one last sentence behind. "Come find me after you get better." After leaving the hospital gates, Soo-yi knew that this ordinary world was gradually going to be out of his reach. Starting from Stephen here, although he only displayed a tiny bit of ability, once an arrow is shot, there is no turning back. Once there is a 1, there will be 1.2, 3.4, and so on. Only 0 can be absolute 0. And now Soo-yi is already at 1. But it doesn't matter, it's still the same saying. As long as you are powerful enough, you don't have to do what you don't want to, and no one can force you. Soo-yi was no longer in the mood to drive, so he directly let the Ferrari fire navigate and drive itself home. By the time the Ferrari entered the underground garage, Soo-yi had just opened the car door, when he received another piece of latest news. An evil lizard man and unknown scientific equipment have appeared on the roof of Osborne Tower. No superhero has appeared to stop them yet. The New York police have been dispatched. Please wait for further updates. Breaking news. Spider-Woman has arrived at the roof of Osborn Tower and is fighting Lizardman. Phew. Seeing this news, Su-Yi sighed. He knew it was some kind of gene diffuser created by Dr. Lizard. So that's why Gwen hadn't come over these past few days. She had been investigating the Lizardman situation. Su-Yi was already in a bad mood today. Now that he knew his little Spider-Woman was about to get beaten up, Su-Yi's mood was definitely even worse. Fire. Su-Yi put away his phone, shook his head, and walked toward the elevator. Go cut it down. Yes, boss. The elevator doors closed, and Su-Yi returned to his room. Then he turned on the TV to watch the battle at Osborn Tower, which was being broadcast by a news helicopter. Meanwhile, on the other side, inside the empty car, fire was driving itself toward Osborn Tower. North Tower was not far from Osborn Tower at all. It was only about a dozen kilometers away. So, on the city streets, a fiery red supercar was speeding along like a surging flame. At the same time, above Osborn Tower, Lizardman bared his fangs and smiled at Spider-Gwen. I've already investigated clearly. Scarlet Witch and the entire Avengers are abroad, and Iron Man is in another state. He won't be here for half an hour. Now, you little pest, you think you can stop me? Gwen, wearing her spider suit, stood on top of a condensing unit. She wore her mask and said with emotion, Mr. Lizardman, I've been waiting for you to appear for a long time. Quote. Dr. Lizard was stunned. Why had she been waiting for him for a long time? Wasn't Gwen here to stop him? Only then did Gwen say, if I told Sue directly that I am Spider-Woman, then all of this would make it seem like I've accomplished nothing. I must have some achievements to appear before Sue with an open heart. Not just as an ordinary Gwen. He has Scarlet Witch, one of the superheroes, by his side. Just being Gwen isn't enough. I have to be Spider-Gwen. After speaking, to Dr. Lizard's surprise, Gwen actually took the initiative, shot out some spider silk, pulled herself across, and kicked toward Dr. Lizard like a cannonball. Dr. Lizard didn't react in time. He could only raise his hand to block in front of him. Bang. As her foot collided with his arm, a dull sound rang out. Dr. Lizard retreated a few steps and waved his hand violently, only to find that Gwen was gone. He turned his head and realized Gwen was already heading to destroy the gene-modifying transmitter. Pest! Dr. Lizard roared. Then he hurriedly rushed toward Gwen. And when Gwen reached the transmitter, she realized ending the transmitter required a password, or destroying the transmitter by force. Since Gwen didn't know the password, she could only choose to use spider silk to pull the transmitter off the building. And then destroy it. Bang. 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 But Dr. Lizard had already arrived beside Gwen. His massive palm swiped over directly. Gwen lowered her head, pulled on her spider silk, and hurriedly dodged it. Then, she kicked off the nearby machinery with force. She turned back and delivered a whip kick to the top of Dr. Lizard's head. Boom. Dr. Lizard was kicked until he stumbled. Swish. Swish. Gwen hurriedly shot out spider silk to entangle Dr. Lizard. Then she ran to the side of the transmitter to start moving it. But the transmitter was very heavy. Gwen estimated she could only move it a few centimeters per second. And the transmitter was at least several meters away from the edge of the building. So this meant Gwen needed to buy at least 2 or 3 minutes of time to move it. Phew. I'm going to be sweating buckets today, Gwen muttered. Then she did a slide to dodge Dr. Lizard's grab. Next, she shot out spider silk to attach to the nearby machinery, then swung herself up to kick toward Dr. Lizard. Clearly, Spider-Gwen knew how to use acceleration better than other versions of Spider-Man. But Dr. Lizard's physical strength was not weak either. Boom. Gwen accelerated her 2 feet and kicked with force. The result was only forcing Dr. Lizard to fall to the ground. Seeing this, Gwen sighed. Can't you just die already? You're really annoying. If Spider-Gwen's fanboys were here, a bunch of them would probably hear this and scream, I'll die, let me die. Unfortunately, the one opposite her was the mentally unstable Dr. Lizard. Gwen watched Dr. Lizard stand up again, clapped her hands, and sighed again. Looks like I have to find a way to beat you down first. But what about the transmitter's time running out? Gwen had a headache. Vroom. Quote. But just then, the perfect roar of a supercar engine started drifting in from afar. Gwen paused, listening. This engine sound, why does it sound a bit like Suyi's? Quote. However, it wasn't just a bit like. It was exactly it. As the sound of the sports car roared closer, Dr. Lizard didn't know who was coming. So he moved forward quickly, wanting to take down Gwen and launch the gene transmitter as soon as possible. His large, brownish-green hand suddenly swung out. Gwen didn't even look. She dodged it with a backward lean. You're resorting to sneak attacks. Quote. After leaning back, Gwen did a few backflips to put some distance between them. She seized the opportunity to reach the edge of the building and look down. Sure enough, a Ferrari, as fiery red as a phoenix, was speeding toward them. It really looks like Suyi's car. Quote. Gwen felt a surge of joy. But then she worried about how she would protect Suyi if he arrived. Would he get hurt or something? What should she do? How is that possible? Quote. Dr. Lizard was stunned when he heard this. He quickly shook his head, denying it. The Scarlet Witch and the Avengers are both abroad. They can't possibly be here. Quote. Upon hearing this, Gwen realized that Dr. Lizard had mistaken Suyi for a member of the Avengers. Because in the previous two instances where Suyi was present, both superheroes had obeyed Suyi's every word. That was why Dr. Lizard was thinking this way now. Since that was the case, Gwen's eyes darted around. She stood up, put her hands on her hips, and said, You just wait. Quote. The Scarlet Witch will be here soon to crush your head. Quote. How is that possible? Dr. Lizard looked completely shocked. Impossible, they are both abroad. The news just came out this afternoon. Quote. But the Scarlet Witch uses magic. Gwen lifted her chin and said, How could a lizard brain like yours understand magic? Quote. No, this is impossible. Quote. Hearing the sound of the Ferrari getting closer, Dr. Lizard rushed to the edge of the building to check the situation. Seeing this, Gwen quickly ran to the other side to continue moving the gene transmitter. Dr. Lizard looked down, and it really was that car. Oh no, this won't do. I need to launch the device quickly. I must launch the device before they arrive. Dr. Lizard pounded the floor. But when he turned his head, where was Spider-Gwen? Then he looked back again. She was moving the device. You pest. Quote. Gwen, who was in the middle of moving the device, heard this, pursed her lips, and continued to heave with effort. Just you wait. It's not that Gwen won't retaliate, it's just not the right time yet. Once I deal with this thing, I'll come to finish you off. Gwen gritted her teeth as she moved it. But Dr. Lizard was already thumping toward her. Gwen glanced behind her, less than a meter away. If she just had a dozen more seconds, she could destroy this thing. But it was still too late. Dr. Lizard had already reached her, swinging his fists and large tail. Gwen had no choice but to dodge first. Once she created some distance, she looked up at the timer on the transmitter. Only a few minutes left. She still had to tangle with Dr. Lizard to get a chance to move it. There wasn't enough time. Vroom tilde tilde tilde. Vroom, vroom, vroom tilde tilde tilde. Quote. Just then, as the sound of the car reached the bottom of the building, suddenly, the Ferrari's throttle roared, sounding just like a fighter jet engine. They really came. Quote. Gwen quickly ran to the edge of the building to check. To her surprise, a Ferrari was actually driving 90 degrees off the ground on the wall of the building. Its exhaust pipes weren't venting exhaust anymore. They were spewing fire, and it was even emitting Mach rings. That was why this Ferrari could drive 90 degrees off the ground on the building wall. So cool tilde tilde tilde. Quote. Gwen's mouth hung open. She was certain now that this was Suyi's car. But she never expected this car to be so incredible. What kind of black technology was this? Is Sue coming? But will it be dangerous? Meanwhile, Dr. Lizard panicked upon hearing the fighter jet engine roar from the supercar. It hurried to the edge of the building to take a look. First startled, it then realized something and burst into laughter. You bug, there's no one in the car at all. What are you expecting? Ha, who can you rely on? At Dr. Lizard's reminder, Gwen looked again and was shocked to find there really was no one in the car. For a moment, Gwen felt both relieved and disappointed. Wait, but then Gwen suddenly realized something else. If there's no one in the car, how is it driving? Dr. Lizard, hold on, my CPU just fried. Dr. Lizard looked down again. Oh, right, if no one's driving, how did it get here? Dr. Lizard was stunned, but before it could figure it out, Skyfire drove up the hundreds of meters tall building in just a few seconds. Vroom. Between Gwen and Dr. Lizard, the fiery red Ferrari Skyfire soared into the sky. Then, under their shocked gazes, Skyfire began to transform in midair. Clink, clang, various mechanical modules shifted, the mechanical head, engine chest, armor, thrusters, and a longsword appeared one by one. Soon, a transformer appeared in the air and landed on the rooftop. Boom, as the shockwave rippled out. A transformer standing over 9 meters tall, looking as if its whole body was wreathed in flames and carrying a red longsword at its waist, stood there. Gwen was 1.7 meters tall, and Dr. Lizard was 2.6 meters. But they both had to look up to see Skyfire's mechanical face. Meanwhile, the TV station helicopter in the distance was going crazy at the sight. Breaking news! Breaking news! A humanoid mecha has appeared at the top of Osborne Tower. A humanoid mecha has appeared at the top of Osborne Tower. It can transform. On live TV, it changed from a car into a robot. What is this? What is this? The TV reporter roared from the helicopter. His excitement was transmitted through the microphone to everyone watching the broadcast. And everyone watching the live stream was stunned. Originally, the Lizard Man and Spider Woman were impressive enough. But what was this giant mecha? Skyfire was over 9 meters tall. Its fiery red body and height made it extremely conspicuous standing on the rooftop. Everyone could only look up in awe. In the North Tower, Su Yi was holding popcorn, watching the live stream and eating, when he suddenly felt something was wrong. It seems, it really is a bit flashy, huh? But there's no turning back now. Flashy it is, then. Anyway, very few people know who this car belongs to. Just a handful of people. And since it's already been seen, might as well keep showing off. However, in the seaside villa in Los Angeles, Tony didn't think so. At this moment, he was developing nano armor and had reached a critical stage, unable to spare time for anything else. He had also reminded Friday not to disturb him unless it was something important, to block all messages, but now, Friday still appeared directly to remind him. Sir, a new technological product has appeared in New York City. I think you need to take a look. Jolt, asterisk. Tony was startled by Friday's sudden voice. But hearing that there was indeed something important, Tony could only sigh. If only Jarvis were still here. When Jarvis gave a sudden reminder, he would automatically lower the volume and use a gentle tone. Unlike Friday, who was like a cold, emotionless female secretary. Sigh. Tony went to the computer. He waved his hand in the air, bringing up the footage Friday mentioned. As soon as the image appeared, Tony's eyes widened, and he immediately began to watch intently. The scene in the footage was the TV broadcast, along with footage captured by Tony's own satellite. Yes, Tony had his own satellites, just like Musk's Starlink. But right now, the most important thing was clearly Tony staring intently at the Transformers, Skyfire. Tony stared intently at Skyfire. Then, he manipulated the controls with his hands. Zoom in more. The satellite began to zoom in on the image. Tony watched Skyfire's body and every single detail closely. Then he shook his head and said, "This doesn't make sense. It's impossible for this state to become a humanoid form. It's impossible for machinery to turn from a car into a living being like this. There must be other technology involved. Could it be nanotechnology?" Tony fell into thought. Just what kind of technology was this that could allow Skyfire to change from a car into a humanoid mecha? Tony had already analyzed it many times in his mind. He was certain Skyfire's core technology was definitely different from his own Mark armor. And completely different at that. Their tech trees were definitely two completely unrelated paths. So what technology is it exactly? Tony sank into deep thought. Then he began to study it. Meanwhile, under the watchful eyes of the public, Skyfire didn't say a word. It didn't even offer a greeting. ****. It drew the longsword from its waist directly. Then, under everyone's gaze, it pointed at Dr. Lizard. Wow, Gwen understood immediately. Your sus friend, or Sue sent you here, didn't he? Skyfire didn't respond. Thud, thud, thud. Asterisk. It walked straight toward Dr. Lizard with its sword raised. Two pests. Dr. Lizard spat out a defiant remark. Then he swung his massive fist and charged at Skyfire. But in the next moment, bang, asterisk, Skyfire delivered a kick. Dr. Lizard flew back just as fast as he had charged. And even faster than he had come. Finally, he slammed onto the floor with a splat. Then Skyfire continued to walk over, preparing to execute Dr. Lizard. Dr. Lizard struggled to climb up, and after cursing, he turned around and ran. On this matter, he wasn't stupid. After trying once just now, he knew. He was just flesh and blood. Fighting Gwen, who had only recently adapted to her body, was acceptable. But fighting a 9-meter-tall mecha was impossible. He just had to run. Faced with Dr. Lizard turning tail and running, even Gwen was stunned for a moment. His attitude changed that fast. But what no one expected was, Skyfire was even faster. Whoosh, asterisk. Suddenly, energy flames erupted from Skyfire's waist, legs, and feet. And there were still mock rings flickering behind it. So in that very instant, Skyfire vanished from the spot. It charged straight toward Dr. Lizard. After hearing the sound behind him, Dr. Lizard's original plan to climb down instantly changed to wanting to leap directly from the top of the building. But just as he jumped into the air, before gravity could pull him down, slash, slash, asterisk, Skyfire arrived at the edge of the building in an instant. It swung its several-meter-long red longsword twice. Once from left to right. Once from top to bottom. Shring tilde asterisk. Then Skyfire retracted its longsword. And Dr. Lizard fell from above the building, split into 4 pieces. Even his head was split in half. It was impossible for him to be resurrected. Wow tilde. Gwen came to the edge of the building. She marveled at Dr. Lizard, who had been cut into 4 equal parts. It seems having a weapon is better after all. Fists and feet are indeed a bit too weak. Gwen nodded and added another comment to the falling corpse. Also, I smell nice. Indeed, Su-Yi could testify that Gwen smelled nice. Whether it was body fragrance or shower gel didn't matter, she just smelled good. Then, Gwen turned her head to look at Skyfire, who had already retracted his longsword, and asked, "Aren't you sus car? How did you change from a car into this?" Faced with Gwen's curiosity, Skyfire wouldn't say a single word of nonsense. He simply replied, "The boss gave me a mission, slay it. Now that the mission is complete, I am leaving." After saying that, Skyfire grabbed the edge of the building with one hand. Then, digging his mechanical fingers into the wall, he slid down. Huh, Gwen was stunned. Boss, was he talking about Sue? Wait, Gwen leaned over the edge of the building and looked down, wanting to ask for clarification. But just as she spoke, she saw 2 gold-leafed characters on Skyfire's chest. They were so conspicuous against the red steel. And those 2 characters were exactly Su-Yi. It really is Sue. That's great. Gwen jumped up happily. This meant that Su-Yi wasn't an ordinary person either. So, Su-Yi's low profile and reluctance to show his strength was for the same reasons he had taught her. Just like what he taught her, he only wanted to be a free superhero. Not a professional superhero. What was this? Leading by example, teaching by word and deed. Moreover, Gwen was relieved that telling Su-Yi she was Spider-Woman in the future wouldn't scare him. She wouldn't have any more misgivings. That was why she shouted, "That's great." Oh, right, at that moment, Gwen realized that the gene launcher was still running. She hurriedly ran over to turn off the gene launcher. And this time, with no more interference from Dr. Lizard. It was a piece of cake for Gwen. Clap clap asterisk tilde tilde. After finishing, Gwen clapped her hands with satisfaction. Going home tilde. Just like that, during the television station's live broadcast, Gwen swung through the air a few times and disappeared from everyone's sight. With that, the incident came to an end. After Gwen returned home, she climbed through the window into her room. Then, while humming a song, she thought about when to go meet Su-Yi. Since they had both indirectly confessed, then let's be open and honest with each other. But when should she go? Gwen leaned by the window, looking at the moon in the sky. At that time, the words spoken by the quartered Dr. Lizard came to her mind. Scarlet Witch is still abroad and won't be back until tomorrow or the day after at the earliest. The Avengers are all gone. Who can you rely on? That means, right now, New York only has me. No Scarlet Witch. That's right, Tilda. Gwen's little brain whirred. Wouldn't going tonight be the best choice? Thinking of this, Gwen put on her mask, turned around, and flipped out of the window again. Then she shot out spider silk and headed straight for the top floor of Suyi's North Tower. At the same time, after seeing the incident resolved, Suyi nodded with satisfaction and changed the TV channel, leaving it on. Yes, he wasted electricity. He liked to keep the TV on all the time regardless. However, Skyfire had completed the mission very well. Not a single word of nonsense throughout. He slashed when it was time to slash. And left after he was done. Very good. At that moment, Skyfire drove himself into the North Tower's underground garage and parked. Then he sent a message to Suyi's phone. "Boss, mission complete." Suyi nodded in satisfaction and replied, "Good job. I'll allow you to connect to the internet and get to know this world before receiving my next orders." Yes. Turning off his phone, Suyi tossed the phone onto the bed. As for whether Skyfire would turn into Ultron after connecting to the network, that was impossible, because Suyi was his creator. Transformers are forever, absolutely, and infinitely loyal to the creator of the Allspark. And Suyi was that very person. And that was that. Suyi took out a cup of milk tea and went to the floor-to-ceiling window to enjoy the night view. Wanda should be coming back in a few days. He wondered what Wanda would eventually become after this period of guidance. Suyi knew, in the universe, no one stays the same forever. Under his influence, Wanda's personality would certainly change as well. Of course, it wouldn't be a complete 180-degree turn. Rather, it would be heading in a positive direction. And given Wanda's current personality, she would definitely come looking for him once she returned. As for Suyi, having been bored for so long, he truly did enjoy spending time with beautiful women. Was there anything wrong with that? Knock, knock. Just then, the floor-to-ceiling window to Suyi's right was tapped twice. He hadn't even looked yet, but a smile had already appeared at the corners of his mouth. Then, Suyi deliberately looked over. No one was there. But as soon as he turned his head, Spider-Woman was hanging from a strand of spider silk, sliding down in front of him upside down. Only a wall separated the two of them, and they gazed into each other's eyes. There was no need to look at her figure, listen to her voice, or even speak. Just from those burning, lively eyes, Suyi knew it was Gwen. Suyi held his milk tea in his left hand. With his right hand, he gathered energy and wrote 4 letters on the glass. Gwen. As expected, seeing those 4 letters, Gwen, on the other side of the glass, trembled all over. She reached out and pulled off her mask, revealing a flawless yet excitedly flushed face, along with that flowing, beautiful blonde hair. "Hello, Sue. I am your tutoring subject, Spider-Gwen Tilda. New York, 10:30 p.m. At the top of the North Tower in Manhattan." 2 people gazed at each other through the glass. Because Suyi lived here, the glass on the top floor of the North Tower had been modified. Although it was normally a floor-to-ceiling window, it was composed of 3 sections of reinforced glass, top, middle, and bottom. The middle piece of glass could be pushed to the side as long as it was unlocked. So, as Suyi looked at Gwen's face and blonde hair, he reached out and opened the glass in front of him. Whoosh! A gust of wind immediately rushed into the room. Gwen, hanging upside down in the air, leaned toward Suyi because of the wind blowing inward. The two of them got closer and closer. They could even feel each other's breath, as the wind assisted in pushing them across the final bit of distance. Gwen closed her eyes. She and Suyi pressed together. First, a light touch. Then, they moved into closer contact. Gwen was upside down, while Suyi was standing upright. The two were kissing in a posture most humans couldn't even imagine. And this was hundreds of meters up in the air. The difficulty level was unprecedented among humans. And there might never be anyone to match it. But never mind all that for now. After the two had kissed for a long time, the wind finally began to calm down. What I mean is, for as long as the wind blew, the two of them kissed. As the breeze stopped, the two also gradually pulled apart. Gwen's face was flushed, and she opened her watery eyes. Su-yi pulled out another cup of milk tea from thin air and smiled. Want to come in for a drink? Clap. Gwen impatiently took the milk tea. Then, with a twist of her waist, she flipped inside. Su-yi marveled at Gwen's figure just now as he closed the window. But before he could even walk to the guest seats, Gwen had already stepped in front of the wine rack, eager to try. She said very firmly, "I want to drink alcohol." "Don't be silly." Su-yi sat in a chair, took out some snacks and desserts from elsewhere, and said, "Are you even of age to drink?" "I'm so sorry, Tilda." Gwen picked through the wine rack. She specifically found the bottle with the highest alcohol content and hugged it. Then she took 2 large wine glasses, gave Su-yi a wink, and said, "I just turned of age last month, Tilda." Su-yi. Then she really can drink. Come to think of it, Gwen is currently a senior in high school. Graduation is only half a semester away, and then it's off to college. So at this age, she really is an adult. She wasn't lying to herself. But does anyone know the other layer of meaning behind Gwen's words? Su-yi knew. I am an adult, legally I can drink, and legally and biologically I can also. Well then, he watched as Gwen eagerly set out 2 wine glasses. Then she opened his 6-figure bottle of liquor and began to pour. Whatever. Su-yi didn't care about the money anyway. However, Su-yi looked at Gwen's figure in her spider suit and said, "Do you plan on wearing that the whole time?" Of course. After pouring the drinks, Gwen set the rest aside and sat down, explaining, "I came straight here after stopping the lizard man's genetic modification plan. I didn't even go home. So I don't have any clothes to change into. This will have to do." Having said that, Gwen didn't ask anything else. She first picked up her glass and gestured towards Su-yi. "Cheers, Tilda." Su-yi helplessly picked up his glass. But he still asked for confirmation. "Are you sure you want to drink this? This is the highest proof bottle on my shelf. Don't end up a drunk spider." "Is that so?" Gwen looked at it, feigning ignorance. Then, deliberately failing to find the alcohol content, she said, "It's not labeled. If it's not labeled, it has no alcohol." Su-yi. 0.0. Fine, you said it. Cheers. Su-yi raised his glass and clinked it against Gwen's. Then he took a large gulp, finishing nearly half his glass. But when he looked up, he discovered Gwen had taken a massive swallow. She had almost drained the entire glass in one go. If a connoisseur saw this, their heart would probably bleed for the wine. But for Su-yi and Gwen, well, it was just a prop. The money didn't matter at all. Clack tilde asterisk. After Gwen took that huge gulp, she slammed her glass down on the table. Hot tilde tilde tilde. Then, stung by the alcohol, she stuck her little tongue out in front of Su-yi. Blay be la tilde tilde tilde. Su-yi couldn't help but laugh at the sight. Gwen looked up. "Why did you drink so little? Don't you feel the sting? You get used to it." Su-yi picked up his glass and drank a bit more. Liquor is meant to be sipped slowly, small sips are right. Only beer is meant for big gulps. Gwen didn't care about any of that. She poured herself another glass. Then she topped off Su-yi's glass and said, "Then next time we'll try beer." And so, the two of them drank and chatted tipsily. "Sue, what was that mecca?" "I'm so curious, Tilda," Gwen asked, her breath smelling of orchids. "Transformers," Su-yi replied, feeling a bit tipsy after some wine. "I'll introduce you next time. It has life and a soul. It can switch between a supercar and a transformer." "Wow, Tilda." Gwen's eyes sparkled with stars upon hearing this. She then moved her chair and glass to sit beside Su-yi and continued asking, "Sue, you aren't an ordinary person either, are you? So the things you taught me were all from your own personal experience." "I understand now. I'll be a free superhero just like you. Life is the main career, being a superhero is just a side job, Tilda." Looking at the tipsy Gwen raising her glass, Su-yi didn't bother explaining further. He simply said, "That's right." The atmosphere grew increasingly intimate in their drunken state. As everyone knows, atmosphere is the foundation for any progression in rhythm. Without the right environment and atmosphere, it's like a lighter clicking repeatedly without any fuel. It simply won't ignite, and it won't strike the sparks of love. At this very moment, The television that had been on just switched to a music program. And it happened to be a soft, romantic tune. This led Soo-yi to pick up the glass Gwen had filled and take another sip. But just as he set it down, Gwen grabbed his hand, stood up, and said, "Sue, let's dance Tilda." Soo-yi was pulled up by Gwen. He was 1.8 meters tall, and Gwen was 1.7 meters. Standing together, they were the perfect height match. Gwen took Soo-yi's hand and spun. Her agile body spun many times around Soo-yi's palm. Then she fell into Soo-yi's embrace. "I'm a little dizzy," Gwen murmured. However, Soo-yi gently caressed Gwen's face, reached out to hold her shapely slender waist, and said softly, "It's okay, I'll let you." And so, accompanied by the romantic dance music from the television, the two began a graceful dance. With their physical contact, Gwen's cheeks grew increasingly flushed. At the same time, the longing in her eyes intensified. Eventually, as Gwen intentionally danced along, the two danced to the edge of the incredibly soft, large bed. Finally, with a thump Tilda, they collapsed together onto the velvet quilt. Gwen closed her eyes. Soo-yi lowered his head to seek the cherries. Their dance did not end. It merely continued in a different way. This kind of dance was quite intense. It would make the large bed creak and groan, and make the dancers' spirits sway. But in any case, the dance would not stop. The next day, knock knock Tilda, accompanied by the sound of knocking on the door. "Gwen, if you don't get up, you're going to be late for school." Gwen's mother reminded her from outside the door. I know, I'm getting up now." Gwen suddenly jolted awake and gave a casual reply. Then she fell into deep thought as she looked at the spider suit at the foot of the bed, which had 3 holes torn in it, and a set of Soo-yi's clothes. What happened last night? She went to find Sue, then kisses, then drinking, then dancing, then. Finally, she and Soo-yi finished showering together. Then she suddenly remembered she had school tomorrow. That's why she wore Soo-yi's clothes and went home with her own battle-damaged suit. Tilda. Gwen's face instantly turned red. No wonder her legs and waist were so sore Tilda. But, she was very happy. Very excited. And, forget it. Hurry up and change to go to school. Fortunately, Gwen's physical fitness was excellent. Even though it was her first time, she had mostly recovered after one night. She quickly got up and changed her clothes. Then she stuffed the new spider suit into her backpack. She put the battle-damaged spider suit and Soo-yi's suit into a bag, shot out a strand of spider silk, and hung it outside the window. Finally, Gwen hurried out the door and said, "I'm leaving, Mom. No time for breakfast, I'll eat on the way." After saying that, Gwen went out the door. Then she went to the window, jumped up, and took the clothes down. This set of clothes had to be hidden first. She would come back for it after school. 10 minutes later, after hiding the clothes, Gwen had already entered the campus carrying her cyan backpack. Gwen Tilda, a female classmate of Gwen, spotted her and ran over. Then she discovered with surprise, "Wow Tilda, Gwen, where did you get your facial done?" "What's wrong?" Gwen asked, puzzled. "Your face," the classmate asked very curiously. "Your skin is so tender. It's like it's filled with water. And your lips, they're as rosy as a natural strawberry color, I almost want to take a bite." Gwen was startled upon hearing this. She took the mirror handed over by her classmate and looked. It turned out to be true. This face, these lips, these eyes, wow Tilda. Gwen calculated the time of her changes. No need to think about it, it was last night. That is to say, Gwen smiled slightly, and as she handed back the mirror, her fragrant tongue brushed past the corner of her mouth. At the same time, at the Avengers base. At this time, many superheroes had just returned. Then they were busy holding a general meeting. At the conference table, Captain America had just finished talking about the aftermath of the incident. Then he announced dismissal for rest. Wanda sat in her chair, her brow slightly furrowed. Natasha saw this and walked over to ask, "Wanda, what's wrong?" Wanda shook her head. Feeling it was inexplicable, she looked at Natasha and explained, "It's nothing. I just feel that this matter is a bit strange." However, in her heart, Wanda felt that the car was very familiar. But the image quality of the recordings everyone obtained was very poor. Not many people knew the brand or model of that car. Just because it was red, Did it have to be a Ferrari? Seeing that Wanda was fine, Natasha nodded in relief. She then followed Wanda out the door to return to their respective rooms and rest. However, at this moment in Los Angeles, inside the seaside villa, Tony leaned back in his chair, having stayed up all night. He was still staring at the transformers on the virtual panel, lost in thought. What kind of technology is this exactly? Tony couldn't figure it out, nor could he understand it for now. But he couldn't sleep like this, so he sat there thinking the entire night. He thought until his eyes were ringed with dark circles and his hair was a mess from scratching it. Sir, this is not human technology. At this moment, Friday, who had finally finished the analysis, spoke up. Based on a 10-hour scan and comparison of the human technology tree, the technology of the red mecha does not belong to any known human technology. Even with breakthrough black technology, it would be impossible to develop this kind of mecha. After Tony heard this, he let out a sigh. It seemed that even as a genius, there were actually even greater geniuses in this world. Tony actually needed this kind of technology, but he couldn't understand it just by looking. So, Tony decided to try another way. Friday, help me find out who the owner of this car is. I want to pay a personal visit with full sincerity. Very well, sir. Oh, right, take all the information I prepared on Osborne Tower and post it anonymously on the internet. Very well, sir. After the world had been turning for a while, Su-Yi finally woke up. Ding tilde. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the achievement, Spider Knight. Su-Yi. Is it useful? Spider Knight. Slightly increases check-in rewards. Hiss tilde. That's actually quite good. Su-Yi opened his eyes and rested for a bit. On the large bed, feeling refreshed, invigorated, and in a pleasant, comfortable mood, he gave a long stretch. Then, Su-Yi's hand brushed against some fabric. He sat up and picked it up to take a look. Well, one piece of black fabric, and two pieces of white fabric. This looked a bit like the fabric from Gwen's spider suit, didn't it? Whatever. Su-Yi tossed it aside and used the Phoenix Force to annihilate it into nothingness. Then he saw. The mattress looked like a map after a world war. If it wasn't damp in this spot, it was still wet in that spot. Tisk. Su-Yi clicked his tongue, feeling a bit of a hassle. Looks like in the future I should either use an absorbent mattress pad or remember to use magic to clean it up. And right now, Su-Yi could only choose the latter. Snap tilde asterisk. Because the Phoenix Force could reorganize or change the matter of the universe. With a snap of Su-Yi's fingers, the entire top floor of the North Tower was completely refreshed. For instance, the wet patches, the discarded clothes, the marks on the sofa, the trash on the floor, and so on. Everything became spotlessly clean with a single snap. Not bad. Su-Yi nodded in satisfaction. At the same time, he sternly condemned himself in his heart. The two of them were really too crazy last night. Su-Yi had originally intended to be a bit gentler. After all, Gwen still looked young, right? But who knew? After the genetic mutation and physical enhancement, Gwen was extremely durable. She could not only withstand Su-Yi's attacks, but could even go back and forth with him. This made Su-Yi quite competitive. So he used the physical attributes brought by his Superman body to engage in an all-out war with Gwen. And the final result, naturally, he routed Gwen completely, leaving her in total disarray. Even the spider suit was torn to shreds. In one night, it went from brand new to a battle-damaged version. That was also why Su-Yi ended up giving her a bath. Gwen's legs were completely weak. Time reached 9 a.m. Su-Yi returned to his office on time to continue slacking off. He didn't even bother to order takeout. He just ate the egg fried rice or other food gifted from previous check-ins. Next, Su-Yi turned on the projection to check the news. The Avengers have returned to their base, but their actions are still being questioned. Will such unrestricted border crossing and use of superpowers really keep society safe? The battle on the rooftop of Osborne Tower last night has ended. The mutated Lizardman's genes have collapsed, turning him into a pool of liquid tissue. Spider-Woman resolves another crisis. Citizens state, individual superheroes are far better than superhero teams. Giant Mecha Warrior appears in New York. Combat power off the charts. It might have already surpassed Iron Man. But who created it? Tony Stark. Beautiful photos of Scarlet Witch in battle exposed. Citizens call for Scarlet Witch to leave the Avengers and form a team with Spider-Woman. Tony Stark just stated that he did not create the Mecha Warrior from last night, he prefers to call it a Transformer and hopes its creator will contact him. Good grief. In just one night, as soon as Su-Yi opened the news, he found hot topics everywhere. The Avengers, Lizard Man, Iron Man, Scarlet Witch, Spider-Gwen, Transformers. It felt as if the world was in great turmoil. Moreover, the news of Steven's injury had only been out for a few hours before being pushed into obscurity by these headlines. But that was fine. At this moment, Steven likely preferred that fewer and fewer people knew about his current state. That way, he could have more peace and receive a better recovery. In the afternoon, Su-Yi saw Tony's assistant on TV again. Of course, she might be the chairwoman now. That is, Pepper used a subsidiary under Stark Industries to fully acquire a beverage company. The news tip mainly mentioned that the subsidiary bought a site with an existing production line. Because after that beverage company was acquired by the Stark Industries subsidiary, its name was immediately changed. Changed to something milk tea. And Tony himself even promised it would be delicious. Good grief. Su-Yi couldn't help but exclaim after seeing it. This was just Tony's personality. He seemed cocky and flashy, yet didn't give off the vibe of a haughty big shot. One must know that Tony had said in front of news interviews that the burgers near his house were super delicious and hoped everyone would try them. So, it was normal for him to say the milk tea was also super delicious now. And those burgers really were good. There were long lines every day. But the milk tea would be even better. Judging by Tony's recommendation this time. This milk tea would definitely sell like crazy. Maybe that subsidiary could even go public just by selling milk tea. Time reached 5 in the afternoon. Click ***. Following the closing of the main door. Su-Yi thought. Check-in. Check-in successful. Obtained. 12 Chinese Zodiac Talismans Valentine's Day Bracelet Gift Version X2. This was originally a plot point I thought of for Valentine's Day, but then I realized this is a backlog. By the time it's posted, Valentine's Day will be long gone, damn it. Valentine's Day Bracelet Gift Version. Su-Yi smiled when he saw this note. 12 Chinese Zodiac Talismans Valentine's Day Bracelet Gift Version, a 12 Chinese Zodiac Talismans bracelet style that can be bound so it won't fall off when worn, and regardless of who the host gives it to, the host will obtain the same effects. Well then, even this stuff can have different versions, huh? And 2 of them came out of a single check-in. Su-Yi took them out to look. They were exquisite women's bracelets. On the bracelet were 12 equally sized and extremely exquisite jewels, and inside the jewels were the 12 zodiac animals. Namely the rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon. In short, it looked absolutely beautiful. Except, this bracelet was clearly a women's style, not suitable for men to wear. The jewelry and everything were too feminine. A man wearing it would look a bit like a sissy. He had the Superman template and didn't need this stuff at all anyway. Moreover, it was the Valentine's Day bracelet gift version. After Su-Yi gave it away, he would inherently have the same abilities. It didn't matter if he gave it to one person or 2. Fine. Su-Yi tossed the jewels and put them away. I'll just give them to Wanda and Gwen when the time comes. Strictly speaking, the attributes of the 12 talismans were indeed suitable for the 2 women. Wanda was like a high attack, low defense mage. Gwen was like a warrior with balanced attributes. Therefore, the life force, strength force, balance force, speed force, combustion force, invisibility force, rejuvenation force, astral projection force, shapeshifting force, levitation force, immortality force, and laser force within the 12 talismans could greatly enhance the comprehensive abilities of the 2 women. To put these abilities simply, figures can temporarily become real, strength enhancement, yin-yang division, and other such abilities. Wait, Su-Yi suddenly reacted. The yin-yang division of the tiger talisman can allow the person to split into 2 people. If Gwen wears it and splits into 2 Gwens. If Wanda wears it and splits into 2 Wandas. Double. No, it's quadruple. Oh my god. Su-Yi took out the Valentine's Day bracelet gift version of the 12 talismans to look at them again. I've only just realized. It turns out you are the true divine artifact. Su-yi put away the 12 talismans bracelets and entered the elevator to go downstairs. At the same time, he decided he must give this bracelet to Gwen as soon as possible. Then let him, the New York's most affectionate man, test out how this bracelet actually is. Right, after all, it counts as equipment. Then of course Su-yi has to personally test how this equipment really is, right? No other meaning, just a simple test. Meanwhile, inside the Avengers base, Captain America was holding the last meeting of the recent period. After finishing the first item regarding citizen feedback, Captain America brought out the second set of videos and documents for everyone to see. As you can see, a mecha that Tony calls a transformer has suddenly appeared in our world. Tony has guaranteed it wasn't his creation, and no one knows how many of these transformers there are, or what its peak combat power is. Therefore, we need to add another objective to our upcoming mission. That is to investigate who it belongs to and find detailed information on it. Captain America dismissed the team after finishing his speech. As the team faced the sudden appearance of the Transformer, some were lost in thought, some nodded, and others took action. But only Wanda and Natasha felt something was strange. Because both were thinking, have I seen this somewhere before? Natasha had observed the time Su-yi and Wanda had afternoon tea together. The car Su-yi drove that time seemed very similar to the car in the video. Extremely similar, but it wasn't something that could be confirmed just by talking about it. Natasha thought for a moment, she had to go see for herself. Wanda had more or less the same idea. But for her, it didn't matter if it was Su-yi's or not. If it was, it would be an unexpected surprise. If Su-yi had something like this, Wanda would feel more at ease about Su-yi's daily safety. If it wasn't, that was fine too. Then it would have nothing to do with Wanda. So, Wanda shifted from her icy demeanor to an enthusiastic state and walked out of the base gates. But before leaving, Wanda noticed it was raining in New York. And Wanda didn't have a car, so what should she do? Vroom. Just then, Natasha drove up to Wanda in an Audi R8 and said, "Looking for Sue, right? I'll give you a lift." Wanda looked at the two-seater R8 sports car and asked doubtfully, "But yours is a two-seater. Once we get to Sus Place, where will Sue sit? Or are you just dropping me off and then heading back yourself?" Natasha, "So I should just leave then?" "Just kidding." In the end, Natasha went to swap it for a four-seater Audi. Wanda also went back to her room to change her clothes, grabbed 2 umbrellas, and got into the car. Finally, Natasha stepped on the gas. The two of them drove toward the North Tower. The scene returns to the North Tower. Su-yi stepped out of the elevator and walked out the door, only to realize it was raining outside. Su-yi didn't like the rain, because looking at a rainy day didn't put him in a very good mood. And if he had to go out that day, it would be even worse. But at that moment, an umbrella was held over Su-yi's side. He turned his head to look. It was Wanda. Ah, 2 Wandas, bah. Su-yi quickly discarded the image that had just popped into his mind. Then he said with slight surprise, "You're back, are you hurt?" "No," Wanda replied with a gentle smile. Then she walked to Su-yi's side, and as they shared the umbrella, she said, "The mission was very simple. The enemies weren't even as tough as the mutated rat swarm. After one wave, there wasn't a second one." Wanda spoke very simply and gently. But not far away, Natasha felt a bit of fear recalling the scene of Wanda using magic to crush 2 cars with her bare hands. At that time, a large amount of blood had flowed from the car seats and the gaps in the doors. That scene still left the current Avengers superheroes a bit shaken. Wanda also turned back and explained, "It's raining, so Natasha gave me a ride." Su-yi shifted his gaze and looked over. "Oh, you're here too." "Natasha, what do you mean by that?" Amidst Natasha's annoyance, Su-yi smiled and continued looking at Wanda, asking, "So, it's raining now. What do you guys say?" Su-yi took the opportunity to look closely at Wanda. Still a trench coat, but because of the rain, she had changed into a thicker one, a brownish-red color. Her lower half was also different from before. She had changed into black tall boots and blue jeans. This made Wanda's legs look like one smooth curve from her waist to her feet. Those shapely legs, tight in the jeans, possessed a very mature charm. It was that kind of feeling where there was just enough flesh, but not even a bit too much. Finally, there was Wanda's exquisite face. Ah, there's no need to mention that. Anyway, she's just very beautiful. Wanda thought about it after hearing Suyi's words. On a rainy day, there really was nowhere to go. So where should everyone go? Anyway, anywhere was fine, as long as they didn't go back. Wanda thought again and again. But she wasn't familiar with New York, so she could only worry in vain. Suyi sensed her emotions, helplessly reached out to rub her head, and said, "How about this, I'll take you to a rather interesting cafe. Although their coffee is average, the environment and atmosphere are great." As soon as he said this, Wanda nodded in agreement without hesitation. Seeing this, Natasha could only follow suit and nod. Finally, Suyi and Wanda got into the back seat of the Audi. Then he directed Natasha to drive. Natasha drove the car. Seeing Suyi and Wanda sitting in the back row through the rearview mirror, she suddenly sighed. On the battlefield, no one dared to speak loudly to Wanda. The power of her chaos magic was extremely formidable in everyone's eyes. Even when Captain America assigned tasks, he would speak slowly in a normal tone. But here with Suyi, how did it change? She became so obedient, so lacking in her own opinions. Are you still the Wanda we saw before? But in fact, she wasn't. The Wanda that Natasha and the Avengers saw was only the surface Wanda. That is, a self-protection state of Wanda. And the Wanda at this moment was truly letting down her defenses. Returning to how she was when she first came out of Sokovia. The Ice Queen persona was just her protective coloring. The true Wanda was someone who loved a peaceful and happy life. And after Suyi saw Natasha looking over from the rearview mirror, he also met Natasha's gaze for a moment. Then Natasha snapped out of it and continued driving. At the same time, the doubts about Suyi in her heart grew more and more. An agent's intuition told her Suyi was becoming less and less simple. But her thoughts were all presented one by one within Suyi's mind. However, to Suyi, it didn't matter at all. Just let nature take its course. From the moment he began letting Steven witness his abilities, he knew eventual exposure was only a matter of time. Turn left, turn right, turn in ahead, all right, we're here. Just like that, under Suyi's directions, Natasha drove the two of them to the vicinity of a seaside park. The three of them got out of the car with two umbrellas. Then Suyi led the two of them to a special cafe, by the sea. This cafe faced the sea. 3 sides were floor-to-ceiling windows. When Suyi brought them in, there wasn't a single person because of the rain. But Suyi felt that this place was best only when it rained. The three sat down and ordered coffee. Wanda looked at the beautiful scenery outside the floor-to-ceiling windows and admired. The land is across the sea, and it's all misty when it rains. It's quite beautiful here, why is no one coming? This question wasn't difficult, nor did it require Suyi's answer. Natasha answered Wanda with a bit of insight. Because very few people can endure the heavy rain to get here first. Yes, most people wouldn't come here after seeing the heavy rain today. But it was only most beautiful during a heavy rain. This point, Natasha had many realizations about from her rich career as an agent. A short while later, the coffee was served, and the waiter also provided free dessert cookies for everyone. Then the three of them chatted while drinking coffee. Suyi asked Wanda, how was the overseas mission? Was it smooth? Was the scenery nice? Wanda thought for a moment and shook her head. It was all yellow earth and dust, but the mission went quite smoothly. I just used that move you taught me for crushing mice to crush them all. Suyi. 0.0. Natasha. Impressive. Suyi looked at Natasha seeking confirmation. Natasha nodded subtly to indicate it was true. All right then. It seemed Wanda's inner self had truly strengthened. It was just that the strengthening was a bit skewed. But it was a good thing overall. Then the three continued to chat. Suyi was also curious about Natasha's affairs, so he asked. You guys are going on missions so frequently to try and win back approval ratings, but the effect is obvious. So if it comes to the worst case scenario, what would you want Wanda to do? When Wanda heard the first sentence, she thought Suyi was going to ask about the Avengers. It was only after hearing the second sentence that she realized, was he asking for her future self? For a moment, Wanda stopped drinking her coffee and stared at Suyi with tenderness. Natasha's hand paused for a second, and she replied calmly. Every superhero has the right and responsibility to make their own choices. Even in the worst-case scenario, Wanda can choose for herself. Suyi nodded in relief after hearing this. That's good then. When Wanda heard this, the feeling of being cared for made her want to give her entire heart to Suyi. However, after Natasha finished speaking, she looked at Wanda's state. She thought to herself that she couldn't wait any longer. So, after Natasha took a sip of her coffee, she raised her head and met Suyi's gaze with her heroic eyes. Then, she asked solemnly, I mean no ill will, but I must ask. That red transformer, is it your Ferrari? As soon as these words were spoken, before Suyi could even answer, Wanda got angry. Natasha. Yes, the reason Wanda was angry was simple. She didn't ask herself because she hoped this kind of life could continue normally. But Natasha asking like this could easily destroy their current daily life. As long as Natasha asked this question, regardless of whether it was true or not, it would have an impact on Suyi. If it wasn't, then Suyi would be unfairly implicated. If it was, it might be even more troublesome. So when Natasha asked this question, Wanda got angry immediately. It's okay, Wanda. Suyi patted Wanda's hand nonchalantly, which allowed Wanda to quiet down again. However, the way she looked at Natasha had already become slightly hostile. Suyi then looked at Natasha and nodded. That's right, it's mine. Natasha. Wanda. Facing the simultaneous stares of Wanda and Natasha, Suyi took a sip of coffee, and said as if it were a matter of course. If it's mine, it's mine. If it's not, it's not. There's nothing to hide. Suyi's single sentence instantly made Natasha admire him and made Wanda's eyes sparkle with stars. And to some extent, Suyi was quite similar to Tony, such as being daring enough to take responsibility for his actions. Of course, in other areas, like personality, they were completely different. They were only similar in certain ways. After knowing that the transformer really belonged to Suyi, Natasha pondered for a while, before finally asking Suyi, that thing, is there anything you can tell me? I need to gather as much information as possible to complete my mission. But you can also only say what you're willing to say, we won't interfere with each other. After saying this, Natasha added one last thing. The internal environment of the Avengers is very complicated right now, so regarding the fact that the transformer is yours, I promise I won't report it to them either. Once Natasha said this, the way Wanda looked at her improved significantly. After all, her meaning was, I will also do my best not to disturb your lives. Hearing Natasha's guarantee, Suyi nodded with satisfaction. It's good that she's sensible. If you had come up and said to hand over the transformer or give me all the data, then in the former case, Suyi would have directly crushed an ant. And the latter case, of course, would be the same. There's actually not much I can say. Suyi thought about the technical content of the transformer. Does putting the Allspark on it and then taking it back count as having technical value? So Suyi could only give an introduction to the transformer. In short, it is indeed called a transformer, and I named it Skyfire. And it's not a robot, it's a life form. It has a soul and its own consciousness. Furthermore, it is not a product of technology, but a product of alien power. These are two different concepts. Even if Tony were to study it, the results he'd get would be on a completely different path from Earth's technology tree. As Suyi spoke, Natasha took notes. Only after Suyi finished speaking did Natasha react with shock. This is too shocking. Seeing that Suyi indicated he was done, Natasha put away her notes, thought for a moment, and finally asked, one last question. This is just out of my own curiosity, and I won't tell anyone else. Suyi nodded. Ask away. Can it be replicated? Natasha asked seriously. This was a very significant question, because a large part of the reason why the Avengers were in their current situation was due to Ultron. And the reason Ultron was born was because Tony wanted to build an Iron Legion to protect Earth. Then he used the Mind Stone to develop a super-intelligent soul to act as the host to control the Iron Legion. Otherwise, although Jarvis could control dozens of Mark armor at the time, he couldn't control tens or hundreds of thousands of Iron Man armor. That was what ultimately led to the situation in Avengers 2. And Natasha's question hit the nail right on the head. Wanda didn't understand this point. Otherwise, Wanda would surely have murderous intent again. But for Su-yi, he actually hoped she would ask this. Because when a mountain isn't high enough, someone will want to climb it to take a look. But when that mountain is so high that the peak is out of sight, it can dissuade all those with delusions. So, leaning back in his chair, he put down his coffee cup and looked at Natasha with a smile. As long as I want, they can be produced endlessly. After Su-yi finished speaking, Natasha fell silent. What kind of concept was an endless stream of these transformers? In other words, if Earth only had ordinary mortals, Su-yi could unify it whenever he wanted. And even with some superheroes, Natasha couldn't guarantee they would be enough to handle it. I understand. Finally, Natasha nodded as she reached a conclusion, ending the conversation. However, she still offered a reminder. Tony should find you very soon, Sue. There are very few all-red cars in New York, and even fewer supercars. Even if all the cameras were blocked last night, Tony's satellites can analyze it step by step. As soon as she said this, Wanda looked at Su-yi with a slight worry. She wanted to know how Su-yi would solve this. If he couldn't solve it, Tony was just a normal human physically, after all, she. But Su-yi still shrugged indifferently. It's only a matter of time. I don't mind the feeling of being known. I only hate it when someone tries to make me do things I don't like. And when they disturb my life. After saying this, Su-yi's hand was held by Wanda. He turned his head to look. Wanda was gazing at him affectionately, rubbing his palm with her fingers, and she also nodded. It was as if she was saying, "We're of one mind." At this point, Natasha understood everything. She knew the rest of the time belonged to Wanda and Su-yi. So she stood up, took the initiative to pay the bill, and left. Su-yi took out his phone, pressed a few buttons, and said, "It's fine. I'll have Skyfire come over." Su-yi opened his phone and pressed a few buttons. Immediately after, in a VIP parking space in the North Tower's underground garage, a Ferrari started up automatically with a vroom. Then it drove out of the parking space. It headed towards Su-yi's location. A few minutes later, the rain in New York stopped. Wanda and Su-yi watched from outside as a brand new Ferrari drove in from the street. Then it stopped steadily in front of the two. Whoa, Tilda. Wanda marveled. She reached out and touched the exterior of the Ferrari. Then she turned to Su-yi and said, "It's even newer than before, and even more beautiful. This red is intoxicatingly gorgeous. I'd say it's the most beautiful red I've ever seen." Facing Wanda's praise, on the surface of Skyfire's body near Wanda, several gold-embossed letters automatically appeared. "Thanks. Wow, Tilda." Seeing this, Wanda liked this Ferrari even more. Seeing this, Su-yi smiled and asked, "Do you want to see it transform?" "Yes," Wanda confirmed expectantly. "Then let's go." Su-yi led Wanda into the car. The car door also closed automatically. It was only then that Wanda realized that all the parts inside this Ferrari were intelligent. Every single part looked like it could transform. So, Wanda had an epiphany. So this is what a mechanical life with a soul is called. Technology on Earth can never achieve this. Su-yi drove the car, taking Skyfire directly to a deserted beach. There is still some technology that can produce semi-finished products. That's the nanotechnology Tony is currently developing. But even if a mecha is created using nanotechnology, it's still controlled by AI, rather than being a being with a soul and wisdom like Jetfire. Wanda nodded in agreement. Jetfire also displayed a smiley face emoji on the windshield. This made Wanda laugh. Immediately after, Su-yi drove to a deserted place. But before he and Wanda could even get out, he spoke directly to Jetfire. "You can transform now." "Huh?" Wanda was startled. "But we haven't gotten out yet." Before Wanda could finish speaking, the front of Jetfire's car began to lift up. Ting tilde ding tilde. Then the transformation began. Su-yi and Wanda's bodies were placed on the ground after a flip. Jetfire continued to transform. Standing on the ground and watching Jetfire transform, Wanda finally understood. It turned out that the transformation of Transformers wasn't limited to a single set of standard poses. Instead, the steps could be altered at will. This meant these mechanical parts were completely flexible. rather than being fixed like a set of molds. Then, as Jetfire finished his transformation, a transformer over 9 meters tall knelt on one knee in front of Su Yi. Then he leaned forward, bowed his head, and respectfully placed his right hand over his chest. Boss. Yeah, Su Yi nodded. Wanda, watching from the side, was incredibly thrilled. She looked at Jetfire's transformer body. Then she saw Su Yi's name in gold leaf on Jetfire's body. This meant Jetfire belonged entirely to Su Yi. Wanda walked in a circle around Jetfire. Then she kept nodding with satisfaction. He's really handsome. Now I understand why boys all like cars. Let alone Autobots. Su Yi strongly agreed with Wanda's words. During innocent childhood, which boy wouldn't stop to watch an excavator? Boys back then didn't even know what it was. But they just liked it. Su Yi looked at Jetfire, then at Wanda. Then he said to Jetfire, "From now on, Wanda and Gwen will be your second in command. When I'm not commanding you, they can." Jetfire bowed his head. "Yes, boss." But Wanda was confused. "Them?" "Yes." Su Yi looked at Wanda and smiled. "Once you and Gwen choose which cars you like, I'll transform them into transformers. You'll each have one to use, and they can protect you normally." Anyway, Su Yi was the Allspark. Transforming a few more cars was as easy as breathing for him. Moreover, the cars he transformed were still his. It was equivalent to just lending them to Gwen and Wanda. As for the cost of 2 cars, what a joke. Isn't anything that can be solved with money the simplest thing? Is money even an issue? But Wanda was thrilled to hear this. She jumped onto Su Yi, hugged him, and said happily, "That's great. Thank you, Su. No need." MMPH. Su Yi hadn't finished speaking. His mouth was proactively covered by Wanda. The two began to kiss in this deserted place. Jetfire tactfully transformed back into car mode. After a while, Wanda pulled away with a soft smack and held Su Yi's face. "I don't want you to just give me things unilaterally. Although I don't know if I have a salary in the Avengers, once I save enough money, I'll give you a gift too. It's just, I might not be able to find a gift as good as the ones you give me." Su Yi held Wanda. He could already feel Wanda's disappointment because she felt the gifts weren't equal. So Su Yi looked into Wanda's eyes and said dotingly, "No, the gifts you give are always better than mine." Wanda was puzzled. Su Yi leaned in and kissed Wanda's forehead, whispering, "Because you are the best gift the world has ever given me." MMPH. Just as Su Yi finished saying this, Wanda was charmed into proactively covering Su Yi again. She was becoming addicted to it. Finally, by the deserted seaside, the sky had just finished raining heavily, as if the world had just been washed clean. Accompanied by the Ferrari, only after a long time did the long, deep kiss end. After they parted, the look of love in Wanda's eyes was almost palpable. Between Wanda and Gwen, she was the first to fall in love, and then to act. Gwen had also fallen in love, but she wasn't as fast to act as her feelings were overflowing. By the seaside, Wanda hugged Su Yi, burying her face in his chest. Listening to his strong, rhythmic heartbeat, it felt as if it were beating against her own heart. After a long while, Wanda didn't lift her head, but suddenly spoke in a muffled voice against Su Yi's chest. "That Gwen, she likes you too." Su Yi. They were talking, hugging, and kissing so well. Why bring up another woman now? This is heading for a disaster. But Su Yi's heartbeat remained as steady as ever. At the same time, he asked softly, "You felt it. How could I not feel it?" Wanda buried her face deeper into Su Yi's chest, her voice becoming even more muffled. "I am like a fire, close to you, the best firewood in the world. But how could I not feel that there's another fire that also wants to ignite you?" Hearing these 3 sentences, Su Yi's heart almost skipped a beat. These 3 sentences were too beautiful. So beautiful that he suddenly felt very apologetic. Instinctively, Su Yi's arms around Wanda tightened a bit. Instead of feeling uncomfortable, Wanda leaned more comfortably against Su Yi's chest and continued. "But in Sokovia, we don't care about legal marriage papers. Instead, we care more about the feelings between each other. My love for you is like a blazing fire. But I can feel that Gwen is the same." So, Wanda stopped talking there, but Su Yi knew what it meant. She didn't object. Yes, if she didn't agree, then Wanda would have directly said no, Stop, or it's not okay. But now Wanda didn't refuse. Which meant it was feasible. There are just some unknowns for now. Like the issue of the Avengers, Wanda's own problems, the issue of superheroes, and so on. Wanda was preoccupied with these things, so she couldn't give a definite answer for the time being. But again, she didn't refuse. Immediately after, as expected, Wanda added, "Give me some time to adjust, okay? Once our lives stabilize, and I no longer have extra matters weighing me down, we can peacefully and happily search for the meaning of life. It just needs some time." After Wanda finished speaking, Su-yi held her, answering without wasting a single word. "Of course. At the same time, I have an old saying I want to tell you." Wanda looked up and asked curiously, "What?" That was naturally Chin Guan's, immortal at the Magpie Bridge. Namely, if love between both sides can last for why need they stay together night and day? After Su-yi said this poem, he translated and explained it to Wanda again. Wanda closed her eyes to feel it for a moment, then opened them and nodded firmly. At this moment, the two looked at each other for a long time. But the good times didn't last. Beep 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 tilde tilde tilde. Wanda's agent phone rang at this time. Instantly, Su-yi felt Wanda's mood turn irritable. Obviously, she hated being disturbed at this moment. But she still answered the phone, because such calls always meant it was urgent. "Hello, Natasha. Okay, I see. I'm coming back now." After a few words, Wanda hung up the phone, sighed, and looked up to explain to Su-yi. The United Nations has drafted the Sokovia Accords and invited many countries to vote. The Big Five all abstained, but most countries are likely to vote in favor. So I have to go back first, sorry. Su-yi nodded, patted Wanda on the back, and said, "Go ahead, it's okay. If the Avengers disband, you'll gain freedom in a way." Hearing this, Wanda smiled. It seems that's true. After saying that, Su-yi led Wanda into the car. He drove Wanda back to the Avengers base. As for the internal affairs of the Avengers, it was none of his business. Regarding Wanda's affairs, Su-yi simply didn't want to interfere with others. As long as no one threatened Wanda, Su-yi would respect Wanda's autonomy, instead of acting like a chauvinist who tried to control everything. For example, saying something like, "Wanda, you should quit, I'll take care of you." If Su-yi actually said that, he'd be finished. Because such words are an insult to truly capable women in the West. And Wanda certainly wouldn't want to just sit around waiting to die while relying entirely on Su-yi. The same applied to Gwen. So, things were fine as they were. Su-yi just needed to be the man behind them. That way, anyone who thought of harming the two women would be warned. Hey, watch out for the man behind them. Exactly. After dropping off Wanda, Su-yi drove back home. As soon as he reached the rooftop, before he could even scan his fingerprint to open the door, he felt a little spider camping on the ceiling. Su-yi first pretended to open the door. Then, just as the little spider slid down, dangling from behind, Su-yi swung the door open instantly. He grabbed Gwen, who had just silently lowered herself down. Then, he hauled her into the room like a kidnapping and slammed the door shut using the Phoenix Force. Gwen was stunned, not yet having time to react. No tilde. Bang, asterisk. But once the door closed, the sound was completely sealed off. Inside, Su-yi tossed Gwen into the room. Then, while changing his shoes, he unbuttoned 2 buttons at his collar to get some air. No tilde. But what he didn't expect was that Gwen tossed the bag in her hand aside, and then started acting, clutching her collar. No. In the West, it should be called cosplay. He was playing the role of an all-around evil villain who kidnapped beautiful girls. She was playing the role of a pure, beautiful, and weak schoolgirl. Of course, Gwen was already a schoolgirl, and a high schooler at that. However, after seeing Gwen's performance, Su-yi smiled and took off his shoes. Having originally intended to only unbutton 2 buttons, he now unfastened them all one by one. Then he took off his jacket. His unbuttoned shirt fluttered to the sides, and the perfect muscular lines brought by Su-yi's Superman physique entered Gwen's view. Su-yi walked forward. Gwen retreated while sitting. However, Su-yi's speed remained constant, while Gwen grew slower and slower. She even took a secret gulp while looking at Su Yi's abs and pecs. Su Yi felt it was a bit strange. How did the atmosphere suddenly shift to her being the one fishing? And he was the fish that got hooked. Su Yi shook his head indifferently. Then he walked over, reaching into Gwen's pants. He grabbed her belt and hoisted Gwen up. Ah tilde, huh. Gwen was taken aback. Her body was bent into an shape in Su Yi's hand. Then Su Yi went to a chair and sat down. He placed her face down across his lap. Finally, he raised his hand high and brought it down hard. Smack. Asterisk. Ah. Gwen let out a cry. Tears almost burst from her eyes. She quickly reached back to cover her rear. Then she looked back at Su Yi, her watery eyes wide as she asked. Why did you actually hit me? If I didn't actually hit you, was I supposed to just play around? Would there be any need to do it on a chair? We might as well have gone to the big bed. Smack. Asterisk. Ah. Su Yi gave her another smack before putting Gwen down and saying, this is punishment for trying to sneak up and scare me. Gwen jumped up immediately after being released. She rubbed her backside while stubbornly retorting, what if I just wanted to pat you? Did you forget what my profession is? Su Yi looked at her like she was a fool. Gwen was stunned. Fine. As for Gwen's little schemes, Su Yi understood them perfectly. But no matter what, although Gwen was secretly pleased, she pouted and pretended to be unhappy. I don't care, you hit me, I want compensation. Actually, Gwen didn't really want anything specific. At most, she just wanted Su Yi to say some loving words. Of course, it would be even better if he could give her a kiss. But Su Yi thought for a moment. He took this opportunity to take out the 12 talismans bracelet and said, all right, this is the compensation I'm giving you. Huh. Gwen was stunned. She walked over and stared at the exquisite bracelet in Su Yi's palm, lost in thought. Although these 12 gems weren't big, they were exceptionally beautiful. Any girl would definitely love them at first sight. But Gwen hesitated. She really liked it, but her good upbringing told her that a girl shouldn't just accept expensive gifts, even from her boyfriend, unless the relationship is at the right stage. And even then, if you accept it, you have to give back a gift of similar value. So that was the reason for Gwen's hesitation. Actually, she was quite similar to Wanda. They were both good girls. And Su Yi had already sensed the reason for Gwen's hesitation. Su Yi smiled and reached out to take Gwen's right hand. Then he directly slipped the 12 talismans bracelet onto her wrist and said, don't worry, its meaning to me is greater than its value. And to me, you are the best gift from heaven. This 12 talismans bracelet is useful. It's a gift to protect you when I'm not by your side. Ahem. Although Su Yi had just said something similar, it wasn't a big deal. As long as it's useful. 12 talismans, Gwen murmured hesitantly as the bracelet was already on her right wrist. Immediately after, the 12 talismans flashed with golden light. Gwen discovered that the 12 talismans bracelet couldn't be shaken off no matter how hard she tried. This is soul-bound jewelry. When you want to take it off, just silently think, release. When you don't want to take it off, no one can force it off unless it's violently destroyed or you are willing. As for the functions of the 12 talismans, I'll explain them to you, and you can try them out slowly after you remember them. After explaining the binding effect, Su Yi then explained the use of each of the 12 talismans to Gwen. And Gwen was instantly shocked upon hearing it. Wow tilde. She exclaimed in wonder and then said impatiently, then let me try the snake talisman's invisibility. After Gwen finished speaking, she immediately tried the snake talisman's ability, invisibility. When first starting out, this ability allows one to become invisible while standing still. Once mastered, it can turn objects and groups invisible. With proficiency, one can even teleport while invisible. In a sense, this was even more impressive than Quicksilver. And on Gwen's first try, she vanished visually right before Su Yi's eyes. Woo tilde. Gwen was in high spirits and immediately teased Su Yi, guess where I am, Su? Smack. Ah. Instantly. After a slap, Gwen clutched her backside and reappeared. Su Yi, I'll make you show your true form. However, invisibility wasn't the best ability. In Su Yi's mind, the yin-yang power of the tiger talisman was the god tier 1. So, ahem. Su Yi coughed twice and solemnly coaxed Gwen. Gwen, I'm certain you're very talented. So, hurry up and try the Tiger Talisman's yin-yang power. Let me see where the limit of your talent really is. Clone yourself. Gwen. The Tiger Talisman's yin-yang power. After hearing about this ability, Gwen was a bit confused by its literal meaning. Yin-yang power. What is that? Seeing Gwen's confusion, Su Yi turned into a mentor and immediately began his earnest teaching. Yin-yang power refers to two parts of a whole. Like some people who seem cold on the outside but have a warm heart inside. But yin-yang power doesn't just mean two extremes. It's not that one must be good and the other must be bad. Rather, it's two different directions of a single whole. Gwen fell into deep thought for a moment after hearing this. She was pondering what her own two directions actually were. She thought for a long while. Gwen could only think of herself as being extroverted. So, would the other self be introverted? Give it a try. With that said, Gwen closed her eyes and attempted to use the power of the Tiger Talisman. Pop tilde asterisk. As a projection identical to Gwen separated from her body. Another, Gwen, appeared beside the original Gwen. Then, she gradually materialized into a physical form. The two of them wore the same clothes. And whatever this Gwen looked like, that Gwen looked exactly the same. It could be said that even the smallest details were perfectly identical. Except, their expressions were different. Indeed. Once the other, Gwen, became physical. She looked at her original self. Then she looked at Su Yi. Suddenly, she blushed furiously, turned her head away, and didn't dare to look Su Yi in the eye at all. This, Su Yi suddenly realized, this, Gwen's, personality, was very likely the exact opposite of the current Gwen's personality. The original was lively and extroverted, while this one was shy and introverted. But judging by her gaze, there was no doubt she also liked Su Yi. Both of them liked Su Yi. This point remained unchanged. The only thing that changed was the personality. And at first glance, this, Gwen, was a bit like Hinata Hyuga from Naruto. Wow tilde. The original Gwen exclaimed in wonder. She walked over to this, Gwen, and gave her a good look. Then she even poked the other girl's stomach with her finger. The flesh feels the same, too. What are you doing? The, Gwen, clone immediately pushed Gwen's finger away in embarrassment. Then she said in a small, soft voice, "Don't touch me directly." Gwen was stunned for a moment upon hearing this. Then she looked at Su Yi, pointed at the other, Gwen, and said, "She's nothing like me. How can she be so shy?" Hearing this, Su Yi nodded as if it were only natural and explained, "You don't have a bad heart. So the opposite direction you manifested is your inner personality. Unless in the future you consider manifesting one that is badder than you." Gwen thought about it and felt a bit tempted. Then I'll try that next time. With that said, Gwen walked over to Su Yi's side, hugged his arm, and said, drink beer, drink beer. We agreed to drink beer last time." As soon as this Gwen finished speaking, the other, Gwen, was not happy about it. With eyes wide and face blushing red, she saw Gwen hugging Su Yi. Immediately, she also trotted up and hugged Su Yi's other arm. Then she buried her face in the crook of his arm and said softly, "I want some too." Instantly, this kind of contrasting behavior from the other, Gwen, made Su Yi's heart skip a beat. After interacting with the lively Gwen, Su Yi thought she was already the best Spider-Man in the Marvel Universe. But who knew? This, Gwen, wasn't bad either. Hey, but the original Gwen was not having it. She looked at the Gwen, who looked exactly like her, and said, "Can you speak up a bit? Can't you just say what you want directly?" The Gwen, in the crook of Su Yi's arm, heard this. Suddenly, she shouted in a muffled voice, "I want to drink too tilde." Well, compared to the previous sentence, it could be considered quite loud. Though it wasn't even half as loud as when Gwen spoke just now. Seeing her other self being so shy, Gwen was suddenly filled with annoyance. She really wanted to verbally bully her own clone. However, Su Yi smiled, pulled them both into the wine cellar, and said, "Choose for yourselves, you can drink anything." Gwen looked at the bottles of wine on the racks one by one. She let go of Su Yi's arm and began to make her selection. The other, Gwen, looked as well, also letting go of his arm to pick one out.
Thanks for watching my video. Please like and share it.